All right. Hopefully this will work out. I'm not sure. Try to get the shade thing together, make sure the phone doesn't overheat. We'll see what happens. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in His sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect, and protect this message. Aman, welcome. Hopefully we'll have better, we'll do better today than we did yesterday. I think everything's a lot better as far as at least starting the day off. Had a lot of different issues going on that popped up out of nowhere, but we thank y'all. They were able to come on again today. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed their day. Thank you to everybody who gave Solomon love in various ways throughout the day yesterday for his born day. As always, it's Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, but we are always changing lives one mind at a time, being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Spending some time out today to try and speak on something powerful today, as in for our fathers. Special message today just for the fathers. Of course, everybody can listen in. I think that a lot of people will learn some things because of what we're going to talk about. But today, happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And speaking of the fathers, we first give all honor and respect to Yahweh Elohim, the Father of fathers, and His excellence, the one whose heart that we shall all secure and we should be after. And so we're thankful and grateful unto Him. We're thankful and grateful unto Him to for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. So if there's something she can do to help, something to help as far as your physical healing, and even deals with the mental, spiritual, emotional, etc., because it's holistic. So you can't be holy without putting a W before that H. So feel free to contact her about that. But we thank you. We appreciate everybody. As you can hear, possibly my voice is coming back somewhat. I do apologize. It's not all the way back, but it's getting there. And we're excited. We're thankful to everybody who's on. If it's your first time being with us, whether you're on YouTube or TikTok, if it's your one time of many, first time of many, if it's just your only time, if you agree with what we say, you disagree with what we say, etc. If you like me, if you don't like me, whatever, we have love for you. We appreciate you. We honor you. If you guys want to speak on anything, if you have certain comments, questions, concerns that you'd like to be able to talk about, feel free to make sure that you put them in the comment section. The only thing that we ask is that you treat everybody as a human being. So if you say some things that are not respectful, we do have moderators that will make sure that they look out for us as a community. But feel free to put anything out there that you want. And today's topic is pretty simple, but yet not. Something that's surface level, should be, but has become something that's become profound, dug deep within the riches of the planet. And I realize it's something that even many men have never seen and many women have never seen, right? Some people have it and never have it nurtured. Some people would love to talk about it, but never have it talked about. And so I want to talk about today a father's heart. And in our culture, the heart means passion. So we're going to talk about what fathers are passionate about, a father's heart. So prayerfully, you'll be able to gravitate towards that, get on that. Happy Father's Day once again to all the fathers. We appreciate you. And once again, this is a message that should help everybody, but it is, of course, focused in, centered in, locked in on fathers. And so we appreciate that. How you doing, Sister Rhonda? Welcome. Thank you, everybody on YouTube. Thank you, everybody on TikTok. Having an issue with the device we use for our podcast. We're going to have to get that in order, so I apologize. The podcast has been incognito last few days. Got to figure that out and how to make that work, but it will work. We will get it going at some point. But thank you for your patience with that and allowing us to get that in order. How you doing, Brother Keon? How you doing, Terrell? Or is it Terrell Lee? Hopefully I said that correctly. How you doing, Minister Select Joseph? Natural Nikki, how you doing? Normalized Pitbulls, okay. Hello, how you doing? Happy Father's Day. Thank you very much. As Doberman, American Reaper, pretty much coming on to just say some stuff out of militia and get off. How you doing, Loving Winds? Appreciate it. How you doing, Somali Eagle? How you doing? And Grand Rising, how you doing, Sister Deborah? Everybody. We're thankful. We're grateful for you guys again. And you see us here for where we went for Solomon's born day celebration as young Master Solomon turned 7, as he inches his way closer to fatherhood. And one of the things that I really hope to instill in him is, once again, a father's heart. Now, in our culture, in our tribe, how you doing, Sister Helen? A father's heart really is in tune with the ultimate father, the source of all. Some people want to say the source of energy. Some people might say the source of peace. Some people might say the source of the universe. Some people might say the universe itself, the energy itself. We believe in Yahweh Alacham. Right? How you doing, Brother Jay? But we want to talk today about a father's heart. And in our culture, it's important to recognize what a father is. How you doing, Sister Nakia? It is important to recognize a father is different in our culture, because in our culture, you are trained from childhood to be three things, bare minimum: to be an adult male, then to be a husband, and then to be a father. And that's all before you get married, which means that, as we talk about in our culture, because in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. And a lot of people, you have sex with people, even though you don't realize that even the government says that if you're in the Western world, once you go and take your marriage certificate to the court then says you have to consummate your marriage. If you don't have sex after you walk down the aisle, they will say that your marriage is null and void, and they can actually annul it, right? So a lot of people don't recognize and realize how this works, even in law, because a lot of us don't care about natural law, law of attraction, law of first mention, etc. So we just go into things. How you doing, Dolly Fight? How you doing, Regina? So one of the things that we have to realize is that in our culture, you are trained before marriage to be an adult male. You are trained before marriage. Thank you, she loves. You are trained before marriage to be an adult male, to be a father. I'm sorry, to be a husband, and then to be a father. And then we give you an inheritance, and we say all the lessons we taught you since you were in the womb. Take those things and make sure you use them to be able to become a great man. Find a wife, and when you find a wife, let her prepare herself for you, and you prepare a place for her, and become a husband, or because you are a husband. And then when you become one with your wife, and you have fruit making you a father, then you will make sure that you train your children to keep the traditions, the customs, the cultures, the mindset, the psychology of us as a people. And thank you. I'm sorry. I see choo choo at the end. I can't pronounce the first part. Is it Criso? H Criso? I'm not sure. Sorry, HC. But thanks for being part of the community. Alex, the vocalist, thanks for being part of the community. How you doing? Charmaine Wallace, thanks for being. Thank you for that. And happy Father's Day once again to all the men. And today we're talking about a father's heart. A father's heart. And if you can get this, how you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Excellent father, excellent grandfather joining us. If you can get to a father's heart, right, you got to comprehend once again, the father's heart is a father's passion. And many men, women, and children have not seen a father with the correct passion and the correct heart. And so we have a lot of issues when we try to talk about a father's heart. And we have a lot of issues when we try to talk about a father in general, because we don't even really recognize masculinity as being something that's important anymore. When masculinity becomes toxic, then what is a father? Matter of fact, if somebody says Happy Father's Day to my mother, right? Doesn't that become toxic? I think it's toxic the opposite of the way around too. Before somebody says, well, you wouldn't say that about a father for Mother's Day. Yeah, like a Mother's Day is for mothers, Father's Day is for fathers, right? But we've gotten to a toxic place where we believe that a father trying to be in his child's life is toxic, and we believe that it's okay to down fatherhood. And Father's Day is something that is precious, just like I believe Mother's Day is something that's precious, because it's something that's necessary for our community. Now, some people would argue, and thank you for the love, some people would argue, well, when it comes to Father's Day, Mother's Day, it's not even real holiday. It's something somebody did for money. Okay, cool. But I don't think there's anything wrong with taking time out to set time aside for your fathers. There's nothing as far as, oh, Father's Day was something that they gave to Odin or something, Mother's Day or something. No. This is a day, even if they did it for capitalism, that's supposed to be focused on fathers. And I want to talk today about a father's heart, because what makes a father passionate, that's what the word heart really means. Especially if you know the culture and you go to ancient times and stuff, but you know our culture specifically, a father is heart is a father's passion. And so what fathers are passionate about are not necessarily what mothers will be passionate about. And we praise Yah for it, because mothers and fathers are supposed to come together to keep us united as a kingdom and as a people, right? And so we have all these people that don't want us to stay united. They want fathers fathers and mothers to like jumble into some weird mesh, when really fathers and mothers being excellent come together as puzzle pieces to be one. Not to not a father or a guy who's out here should take on the qualities of man and woman, and not a woman out here should take on the qualities of woman and man. But a father must be strong in his stance. A father should be somebody who protects his wife and therefore protects his children. A father should be an example to his community. Can I tell you something that even real fathers, something that I'm realizing as I do more and more of what I do, not just speaking, but when we go to different communities, when I talk to people on the phone, when we do one-on-one kind of life coaching, etc. You said you're not sure where I'm from and what religion, but you're enjoying the message. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. All right, Shalom. How you doing, Sister Barbara? When we talk about a father, the more I learn, the more I realize and recognize that as a father, even brothers that are younger than me that are fathers will give me fatherly advice and not even know it. And I, being younger than certain other brothers that are older than me, will give them fatherly advice and not even know it, because fathers think like fathers. It seems to be something that you'd be like, that's simple, that's not profound. No, fathers think like fathers. Um, and that's why the father is so important. Here's something for people who say, they believe in the Bible and yet never really read it or anything like that. We've talked about this before. Malachi chapter 4, verse 6. Last verse of the Bible before you have hundreds of years of silence, before Yeshua comes onto the earth, or if you want to, Yeshua, Yeshua, Yahushua, Yahweh, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not here to argue over that today. But when we talk about this verse in Malachi, after we go through the tithes, right, and before that, it even talks about the fact that John the Baptist and Yahshua Mashiach are going to be coming, and then talks about your tithes, your offering, talks about Milaman, Ra, Melachim, and all that stuff. When you get to chapter 4, it ends by saying one of the most powerful things ever necessary. It ends by saying one of the most powerful things necessary. Shalom, or shalom, is just saying peace be upon thee, peace with the agreement of the Most High, peace with the agreement of the universe. Kind of like if you know about Kiswahili or Afrocentric terms, kind of like saying Ashe, but more focused on Yahweh's kingdom, right? And thank you for the love, Barbara, Sister Barbara. But here's one of the things, the most powerful verses you'll ever see. It says in Malachi chapter 4, verse 6, that the hearts of the fathers must return to the children, and the hearts of the children therefore need to return to the fathers. Even back then, we were having an issue with fatherhood being attacked, or just outright men not having fathers, not seeing fathers, not being fathers, not believing in fathers, and therefore society giving us the same deal, the same thing. And we're still dealing with the same issue, that the hearts of the fathers, how you doing, Sister Austria? The hearts of the fathers need to return to the children, and therefore the hearts of the children need to return to the hearts of the fathers. You said, are there any verses about LGBTQ plus people? I mean, there are some. You probably wouldn't like the ones that I would bring out, but either way, whether you're LGBTQ plus or not, the heart of a father is still important. And whether you're LGBTQ plus or not, it doesn't mean that we have a heaven or hell to put you in. We would just suggest that maybe some things as far as your purpose, you might want to look into. But that's not the focus today, as much as I wouldn't mind going through that. And we have some stuff that we've even talked about in recordings where we go deep into that. Today, we're talking about the heart of the father, the passion of a father, right? Because the passion of a father looks a lot different. See, I'm not talking about the passion of a man today, even though manhood is important to fatherhood. I'm not even talking about the passion of a husband, even though a husband must make sure that only a true husband will really be the father that he can be, believe it or not. When we're talking about the heart, the passion of a father, right? We're talking about the passion of a father. See, when we use this word heart, we don't even know what lab, or some people in modern who speak modern Hebrew, they say lav. How you doing, Sister Stella? We don't recognize the passion of a father, the passion. So I think it's Malachi chapter 4, verse 6. Whichever verse is the last verse of Malachi, that's the one I just discussed. The heart, right? The hearts of the fathers need to return to the children, and the hearts of the children need to return to the father. Matter of fact, let me see if I can just look it up. Let's see if we can do this on real quick. And let's just read it. I always say this all the time, right? Read your Bible. Why? It'll bless you. If you just read it, it gives you the keys. Very last. So watch this. Watch this. Matter of fact, let's read all of chapter 4, right? And shalom to everybody coming on. Appreciate you guys being on here with us. Thank you for being on, and may y'all continue to smile upon everybody, right? Let's go to Malachi chapter 4. We're going to focus on verse 6, but let's start at verse 1. Verse 6 is the last verse. There's going to be hundreds of years of silence before we get, in the beginning was the word was Elohim, and the word was Elohim, or Matthew chapter 1 telling us about the lineage, or Luke chapter 3 telling us about the lineage, or et cetera, right? We're going to start at Malachi chapter 4, verse 1. It says this, it says, for, behold, so you got to look at chapter 3. Uh-oh, okay. My umbrella just flew away. Hold on one second. I can't let the umbrella fall in the water. Hold on. I got one of those umbrellas that is supposed to screw into the sand, but it's one of those days where the wind is powerful. But that might be fine. I think what I'm gonna do is this right here. I really want the umbrella to make sure that it blocks the sun away from messing with our. I don't want it to mess with the phone, because the sun will mess up the phone if I'm not careful, and it'll have it to where the phone overheats. That's the only reason I want the umbrella. So it should be fine where I got it. Prayerfully, it stays still. I don't want to be running after that all day. Anyway, so Malachi chapter 4, verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day cometh that shall burn them up, saith Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, but unto you that fear, that means respect, unto you that fear my name, shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall, and ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet, and the day that I shall do this, saith Yahweh of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant. Okay. So by the way, we talked about this is Judgment Day, right? There coming a time where there's going to be judgment. So Judgment Day, right? So Revelation, for those who like to take it there, right? Hassan, last book of what we call the Bible now, the Biblios, and yet it's saying that what judgment is coming, and you should, and so in order of Judgment Day, what are you supposed to do? Keep the law of Moses. Remember ye the law. And by the way, it doesn't even mean keep. Sorry, it says remember. So remember means what? Remember means that it was once a part of us. It was cut off for some reason. It was dismembered, and now what we're trying to do? We're trying to remember. We're trying to get back in tune with it. Okay, so it says remember, bring back what? Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Yashrael, with the statutes mean ordinances. So when people say ordain and all that stuff, you can't be ordained and you don't keep statutes, right? That's what the word statutes is. So don't talk about you ordained, but you don't keep ordinances. Don't talk about you ordained and you don't keep law. I'm reading out the Malachi chapter 4. All right. Malachi chapter 4, verse 4. So remember ye the law of Moses. So this is after what? Judgment. Judgment day is coming. Revelation is coming, right? You better make sure that you keep this law, right? Or you got to remember. It's been dismembered. It was cut off from us, right? It's not recall. It's not your memory. It's remember. Remember means something was dismembered. It was once a member of you. It was cut off. It was dismembered. Now remember, we got to bring back what? The law of Moses. This is scriptural. This is cultural. Remember the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Yashrael, with the statutes and judgments, which means that there are judgments. You should be willing to be judged. Only Yah can judge me, but you don't even live by no statutes. How can he judge you? And shouldn't somebody else be able, even if they don't judge whether you go to heaven or hell, shouldn't they be able to say, that's wrong, that's righteous? Shouldn't there be something called morality? Some people don't believe in morality, though. Verse 5, behold, that means pay attention. I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. Now, take notice, he's just talked about the law of Moses. He's talked about Elijah. Both of them show up at the transfiguration with Yahshua himself. And both of them show up in Revelation as the two olive branches that are actually spoken about in Ezekiel. They show up again in Revelation, and they were already talked about in Ezekiel. Here they are being discussed in Malachi. Okay? So we're supposed to be keeping this the whole time. Malachi chapter 4, verse 6, and he shall turn the heart, right? So watch this. It says, behold, I will send Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day. So of Yahweh. So before Yahweh causes judgment, he's going to send us Moses, law of Moses. He's going to send us Elijah. What was Elijah talking about? Get that stuff together before it rains down. And Elijah was translated. He did not experience death, right? So you're even seeing some concepts, some cultural concepts coming through. Therefore, and he, who is he? Yahweh, the Lord, right? Some of you say Jehovah and stuff like that, right? Some of you say Yahweh. Some of you say Yahuwah, whatever, right? We're talking about the same Elohim or Elohim. And he shall turn this Elohim, this Yahweh, shall what? Turn the heart. That's the passion of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So until the fathers' hearts go, or their passions return to the children, and until the children's hearts return to the fathers, it says that the earth will be smitten with what? A curse. You said, if Messiah come, I'll tell him to end my exciting already, and don't dare wake you up again. If that's a word, I'm be honest with you, I've never heard that word before. Can't even deal with the. Yeah, I don't know. Which word did you actually mean before we if you're trying to tear things up or whatever? If your whole thing is, well, the Messiah comes, I'm going to tell the Messiah off. Man, you can't tell nobody nothing. I would say probably, would you making a statement like that, we could probably look into your life and see that you probably somebody that feels like you got to tell people off. You're probably pretty angry and pretty frustrated. And I would say, go ahead. Oh, your existence. Okay. When the Messiah comes, I'll tell him to end your existence already and don't dare wake you up again. I mean, if that's the case, then be suicidal in life. But you're probably not. I would hope that you're not. I would hope that you see more in yourself than just saying suicidal things, because that's not even a Messiah thing. I know you're coming on here. That's a troll type job thing, but really that shows more as far as that. Like, would you end your existence? Period. Like, why would you end your existence? Why do you think that you have no purpose? Why is it that I'm finding more value in you, who's in your trolling, than you're finding in somebody who actually wants to help you? That would be my question for you. I'm more concerned about you when you say that. No matter if your goal was to try and make me feel bad, something like that's not going to make me feel bad. Everybody has a choice to do whatever they want. But if we were to take even the Messiah out of that thing, your whole thing that you just want to end your existence, that's more of a problem. And I'll be praying for you today. And even if you don't like it, but it seems like that's more than what you're doing for yourself. So maybe you should accept it when I do, or open your heart to it, and see if Yahweh actually cares about your existence, and see if he sent his son because he cared about your existence, and see if he wants to love on you, even if you don't think anybody should love on you, including yourself, when you talk about ending your existence. But even if you would say something cryptic back, or if you've gotten off, I don't know, I would still say that I have love for you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you will do better, because you're greater than just ending your existence. You're greater than that. And if that's all that you have for yourself, if you're going to try to end your existence, or you tell somebody off or whatever, I would suggest, why are you trying to tell somebody off? Because they care about your existence. And if that person does have a way for you to be able to live in peace, in a place where you won't hate your existence anymore, why would you be angry and upset at that? What's got you so messed up? But see, even when I speak like that, it goes back to that's a father's heart. And a lot of us don't have a father's heart. A lot of us don't even know what a father's heart is. The word father, first and foremost, it even means source. So, there's got to be a heart, a passion of the source. That's why Jeremiah chapter 3 declares that he'll send you helis, or what we call pastors, after what? After his own heart, after his own passion. I know how you doing, never enough, right? The passion. It's the passion of the father, right? The hearts of the father have to return to the children. And a lot of us don't even know what a father's heart is, male nor female. We haven't really seen it. I'm not saying that you were not born. I'm not saying that you were not born to somebody that therefore has the title of father. I'm talking about a lot of us have been separated from what a father's heart is. A father's heart, to tell you things like I love you. That person that comes on and says the things that they talk about today is very, wow. And even when we deal with the Juneteenth stuff, and happy Juneteenth, thank you for saying so, Sister Bree. But even when we deal with Juneteenth stuff, we have to comprehend that even Juneteenth was really the father's heart. A father's heart. A lot of people don't even recognize Juneteenth, or even if you want to go into it, we celebrate, watch night service. A lot of people don't know about watch night service, but watch night service, which has become a thing that people just do on the 31st, right? But watch night service has become something that really, if you look at it, it was something that we were trying to figure out was it going to happen, was it not going to happen, as far as being free. And we prayed and we praised Yah when it happened. And during that, guess what was happening though? Fathers were up there. They were bringing their families together. They were protecting their families out there with weapons to make sure in case stuff didn't go down the way it was supposed to, they could protect themselves. A father's heart, the source. A father protects, a father loves, a father cradles, a father wishes to dote upon his children. And a lot of us haven't seen that. And in Juneteenth, you kind of have the same similar situation. Even like, I don't think a lot of people even recognize when it comes to slavery, for example. I think a lot of us know the history of Juneteenth. We may go into that or not today. But even when we talk about a father's heart on this Juneteenth celebration, one of the biggest things that happened as far as slavery is concerned, especially if you want to go to like Willie Lynch, 1712, if you want to talk about what Columbus and them did in 1491 to 1493. And when I say 1491 to 1493, basically 1491, the Moors lose to the Spanish. They get Columbus. 1492, Columbus gets sent out because the Pope's given him permission to get slaves and stuff. 1493, you have what is it? The doctrine of discovery that we talked about yesterday, right? Where basically, if you're not a white Christian, or if you go to a land and there's no white Christians on that land, you can discover it because you don't consider other people to be human beings. And when they went to these places, what is it that you do? You reverse the nature of the people. You look for the strongest. Remember, Willie Lynch said it like this: you look for the person who is the strongest, or the person who's most anti the system that's going to govern their people. The person who is the tribesman, the tribal leader, the chieftain, the king. You take the person who you've captured, or the person whose land you're on, and you go towards him and you literally break him apart, right? And remember what I'm trying to say, right? You literally break him apart, right? What do I mean by that? You literally take this father, the father of the tribe, right? And you go to him and you say, okay, I'm going to break him apart. What do I mean? They have this written out. You can look at historical documentation, not just of this letter, but a whole bunch of things that we know happened. But he said, you go and you take him, you make sure that you beat him up in front of everybody. Then you tar and feather him. That means you're cooking him. And then you put feathers on him, right? To make him a chicken, to make him a coward, right? Then after you tar and feather him, you would basically whip him some more. You would strip off all his clothes before you started it, so that you can say that there's nothing to cover him and he's naked before you. He ain't got nothing to protect him, right? It says that you then after that would take him and you would tie him to a horse, tie his legs to two horses going in two separate directions. And that means that you would basically force him into a split, right? Well, buck breaking goes even deeper than that, right? I didn't even mean to do the pun, but I guess you could say buck breaking even goes a little deeper, right? But then you would take him after that, right? And you would have him in a situation where then you have his manhood in front of everybody. You have him tied to two horses. You've already beaten him down. You tarred and feathered him. You stripped him naked. Then you burn him. You set him on fire, and then you make sure you beat the horses. Because even though the horses want to get away from the fire, they have it in their mind we shouldn't split a man apart. But then you beat the horses and you keep hitting them to where they finally just run and they literally tear the man in part, in two pieces. While doing that, you were supposed to beat all the other men that were there, right? This is why we don't know a father's heart and things that people did, right? This is so you tear him apart in front of everybody. Then you beat the other men, not to death, it says, but to the point of death. Because it says that these men are still what? Valuable property. They still are great for economics. So you beat them, but you'll use them to serve later. It says after that, that now you have successfully had it to where a woman, because it said you break the men the same way you break horses, and you break the women the way you break horses. So it says the same way the mare will now eat out of our hand because we've destroyed the male that protects, the group of horses. I forget what they're called, so please forgive me, but protects the group of horses. The same way now the female will eat out of your hand and will become, this is the terms that they use, she will become strong and independent and in a frozen state of fear. And she will raise her children to be in reverse. He said, we have reversed their nature. And he also said that we take the mind and we keep the body. So we've taken the mind of a father. We've taken the mind of a husband. We've taken the mind of a man. But we now have his body to utilize to break down to where now that man will put more stock in making sure, like he'll be more proud to say, you know what, I work 75 hours a week. He'll be proud to say I work 75 hours a week. He'll be proud to say what? He'll be proud to say I work 75 hours a week. Because he's right, but he's not proud to say, I'm a father. And there has to be something where we return the hearts of the fathers to the children, so that the hearts of the children can return to the fathers. We talked about this jokingly, but it's real talk. Number one holiday in the world, Christmas. Number two holiday in the world, Mother's Day. Number 6 holiday in the world, Halloween. Number 13 holiday in the world, Arbor Day. Number 20 holiday in the world, Father's Day. There might be a problem with us needing strong men and us having masculinity come back if we don't even think that fathers, as far as celebration of things, don't even get to hit number 20. Now I can get it because a lot of people have been tricked into Jesus instead of Yeshua. So they put him first with the winter solstice and all that stuff. I get it. I'm not with it, but I can comprehend it. I can see why they do that. I can empathize. But then number 2, mothers, no problem. Come from mother's womb, this and that. But then number 20 fathers, it should show that a father's heart is something that we don't care for. We're not worried about a father's heart. We're not worried about what fathers go through. We're not worried about what fathers want. How many people think, what does my father want? When the Bible declares, in my father's house, there are many mansions, what does that even mean? In order to have a mansion, you have to be connected to the Father. I'm not talking about this modern thing. They've taken you so far away from what terms actually mean, because they took things that were fine and have redefined them. They take things that were fine, they broke them down and defined them, and they've broken them down so many times that they've defined, and you don't even know what it is. But in order to be in tune with the Father and have a mansion, you have to be in tune with the Father. You have to be connected to him, because a mansion, by definition, is an add-on to the Father's house. So if you're not, so watch this. So if you're not connected to if you don't build your house, right? The son, right, of the father, when he's getting married, you have the bridegroom and you have the bride. The bridegroom is supposed to go back to his father's house, prepare a place, prepare a mansion, right? In my father's house, there's many mansions, so I go to prepare a place for them. You're supposed to prepare a mansion for your wife, right? An add-on house on your father's property. You still got your own property, but you're supposed to make sure you prepare a place. That's the first place you guys are going to grow. Once you guys grow there together, then you can start going back to your property and doing this. But you're going to bring the wealth back, and the father is in a position to where him and his wife can be able to help you, and brothers and sisters can come by too, and servants and everything else can come by to help you with what you're doing as far as growing in your community, right? However, the first thing that we do is we drive our sons away so that they're not even connected to the father when they get married. Wouldn't it be great if we kept the mandate that said that, hey, son, when you get married, ensure that you're around me as your father a lot every day, because you're going to need to know from the beginning. You're going to need to have a father tell you what it is to be a father. You're going to need to have a husband tell you what it is to be a husband. You're going to need to know when certain things are happening and you feel like you're just having your buttons pushed or whatever. I'm going to tell you, hey, just go for a walk, chill out, before it even gets to a place to where you can go ahead and mess up, because you're around your father. You're attached to your father. The problem is that we've gotten away from being attached to the father. We think we don't need the father. And that's whether we have people that actually, have children that are living with their fathers or part-time living with their fathers or not. We have a lot of people that just don't believe you need a father. We have a lot of people that do not believe that you need a father. It's become a standard. A fatherless home. Think about it. Fatherless homes have become the standard. Standard is a flag that waves. And if you don't believe so, how many, and I'm not saying we should be mad or not give women credit for this, but how many people are looked up as being better for society because they are raised by, or how many, watch this, how many women are looked at being better in society because, hey, you did it without a father? I'm not saying that some fathers weren't there when they were supposed to be. Let's not go there. I didn't say that. I'm saying, look at society. How many mothers in society do we lift up and say they were great? They were great because their children didn't have a father, and because she did it on her own, and that made her better. No, it didn't make her better. Talk to some of these sisters. Talk to some of these. I talked to some of these sisters behind the scenes, right? Who will even take all that love out in public and say, man, but it would have been nice if had somebody, it'd have been nice if he paid a bill. It'd have been nice if he showed up. It'd have been nice if he talked to him. It'd have been nice. Because a father is important, his heart. There's something that you don't get from a father. Look, there's certain things you don't get from a mother's heart at all. We did the thing for Mother's Day. We honored the mothers, right? So on Father's Day, allow me to reciprocate, or not reciprocate, but to be able to give back, I guess, to the fathers, right? You hear what I'm saying? There's certain things that's in my passion that's not in my wife's passion. There's certain things that when my son does certain things, right? I say things about him that she's not gonna catch. We might even argue about it. But there's certain things you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna wear that. You're not gonna act like that. You know why? Because I, as a father, I as a man even, right, have certain passions. Right? I, as a man, even if you want to go there, I, as a father, have certain passion that she's not going to be as passionate about. I will see things in my 2-year-old son that I see in my grown man self, because I'm an eternal being. And so every day that I'm 2 is every day that I'm 39. Every day I'm 39 is every day that I'm 2. I'm eternal. My 2-year-old self still exists. My 5-year-old self still exists. My 12-year-old self still exists. And when my son does something that's 2, I remember. I bring back out of time through eternity. I bring myself at 2 and my son at 2, and I say, "Ooh, better be careful with that. I know what that is, right? Ooh, better be careful. Don't let him wear that. If he thinks that that's fine at this age, you're gonna have a tough time with that. Ooh, maybe he shouldn't be sleeping with us in the bed. Probably shouldn't be sleeping with us with the bed past his age, because once he starts sleeping in the bed, he's gonna think that he's supposed to. You gonna have a, and I got a tall son, right? So you're gonna have a grown man up in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm 6'5.5", so my son is 7. He don't look like no 7-year-old, right? So hey, we better make sure we nip this in the bud. I've seen it with my little brother, who was trying to sleep in the bed and do all those things, right? And got to 7, 8 years old because his mom passed away. So I get it. Our mother passed away. And so he my father became not only father, but not father and mother, but he became like father and grandfather. It changed all up together because he had to be different to ensure that his daughter, who was still living in the house, was able to get certain things because her mom had left, and at the same time he had to be more connected in different ways for his son, because he was a totally different father. And I get it, he had to be, but peep game, like I saw a 7, 8-year-old trying to stay in the bed, and then when our father turned to him and said, "You got to go to your own room," and he said, "What in the world? Why would I even do that?" I'm telling. So as a father, I have a father's passion. I have a father's heart. There's certain things that I'm going to see, I'm going to be passionate about, that the mother's not going to be passionate about. It doesn't mean that the mother's not passionate at all. It just means that she's not passionate about the same thing, and that's okay. She's not supposed to be passionate about the same thing. She's not supposed to be thinking about the same thing that I'm thinking about, right? She's supposed to be thinking about things as a mother. There's things as a father that's on me, right? As a father, I'm supposed to protect. I'm supposed to provide. I'm supposed to preserve. If you look up the term even for husband, right, you would find that the term for husband, part of that term, or I'm sorry, not husband, but in what is it? I think it's somewhere in Ephesians chapter 5. It's not verse 22. No, it might be. Matter of fact, Ephesians 5:22, where it says, "Wives, submit yourself to your own husband." Submit yourself to your own husbands as you do unto the Lord, for he is the head of the wife and the savior of the body. And when it says the savior of the body, the word savior there actually translates to another word, which actually means more like he's the preserver. He preserves it. So it's not even like savior, like, oh, here I come to save the day, some Mighty Mouse type stuff or whatever. Some of y'all don't get that reference. It's not on some Superman type stuff or whatever, but it's like, he preserves. So, what, for example, and I know this is stereotypes, but sometimes stereotypes work, so I get it. This doesn't have to be without exception, right? But we're going to say that this is, in fact, a rule. All rules can come with exceptions, okay? But this is why a wife might find more things interesting in shopping in certain things that a man might not, right? Because if a man's in a position to think about preserving, then he's trying to preserve for quite a long time, right? He's trying to preserve things for quite a while. So getting something temporary don't really matter. But the wife, and I'm not saying the wife is only temporary, but hear what I'm saying. The wife might go, well, you thinking about preserving this and that or whatever and all that, but your child ain't ate yet today. I need to make sure I get something at the store. Or you think about all this stuff down the road. Well, you want me to go to this event. I ain't going to this event making you look bad because I ain't dolled up. So we better make sure I get my stuff together and make sure I get my, because I'm representing you. And you're not even thinking about that because you're just like, oh, blah, blah. But guess what? She's right to say, just like as the assembly would represent Yashvai, she should think about representing you. So maybe you should think about those things. But we're just thinking about preserve, right? So sometimes we're not thinking about these things or whatever. That's why we need each other. But the father's passions are not the same. A father's passionate. Why is a father passionate about a vehicle? Why does a father, what is in a father's heart? What in a king's heart? What in even these young princes' hearts and stuff? What makes them say, I'm going to make sure that even if I have bad relationship issues, my car will always look clean. Why is that? Because the car serves the mission. See, a man doesn't care. A king, a father, he doesn't care if you submit to him, right? You submit to the mission. If you submit to the mission, he must take care of you. That is a father's heart, right? So if the car takes care of the mission, then I must make sure that the car is taken care of. Why? Because the car is in submission. And so if the car is under the mission, then I must make sure that it is fine and geared up to take care of what? The mission, right? That is a father's heart. Yet a lot of children don't want to be in tune with what? The mission. And we don't teach a lot of our children what? The mission. And so they start doing things that are off of what? Outside of what? The mission. And since they're not in tune and outside of the mission, guess what? We have issues sometimes at being able to protect and to preserve and to be the savior of. Right? The father. The heart of a father is different than what a lot of people are looking for. And it's because people don't care about the heart of the father that we have a lot of issues. The heart of the father is different. Now, once again, you got to be, in our culture, you got to be pre-qualified. And this is a problem. We got a lot of men who take on the title of fathers, but were never pre-qualified, therefore illegally become fathers and are trying to legalize their experience through fatherhood. They're trying their hardest to figure out fatherhood. Hear what I'm saying? They're trying their hardest to figure out fatherhood when they're not even qualified to be fathers. We haven't made sure that their passions are geared in the right place. You said your father was an essential part of your life. He opened your comprehension of or understanding the things your mother couldn't. Yeah, I'm not. And that's, by the way, that's his duty. See, it's a sad place. I'm not saying, see, and ladies don't like it because we flipped it so much that we're supposed to, once again, they've reversed your nature. A lot of sisters think if I say that a father, or that you should be protected, it's almost like a curse word. Because I think it's deep, it's embedded somewhere, even if we're not living in it. It's understood somewhere inside of us that in order to be protected, you got to submit to. But people want to be protected by something without submitting. I didn't say submit to a man. Remember, we don't believe in submission. We believe in submission. I'm not talking about you got to submit to a man. Matter of fact, the Bible don't even say that anyway. It says submit yourself to your own husband. But it's talking about the mission. Submission is submitting to a mission. Be subdued by a mission. Choose to be under a mission. You have the right. You know, we have this weird thing in our head that's like, if a father, if a man asks you to do something, it's like akin to, it's this weird position that we have where it's like if a man asks somebody to do something, it's like we're telling you that you can say no to anything, right? But comprehend, if you say no to certain things, that it makes my job as far as making sure that you're taken care of, it makes it a little harder. Bare minimum, right? If I'm supposed to make sure that you are secure, I used to say it like this when I was in the military. Some people like it better when I say in the military, because military and military, even though there's still cats that try to get around this stuff, for the most part in the military, people comprehend chain of command. How you doing, Minister Sonia? People, for the most part, comprehend chain of command, right? Even if you're not in the military. In the military, I used to do a lot of gate guard duty, whether it was here or abroad. Right, did a lot of different things in the military actually, but I did gate guard duty, did police vehicles, did checking stuff in or whatever, weapons training, hand-to-hand combat, all types of stuff, right? In the military, one thing was definitely used to get on my nerves, and I had to explain even the 3-star, 4-star admirals, generals, etc., people from other countries. People would be like, man, why are you checking me? You know who I am. I'm a 4-star. I'm this, I'm that. I had to tell them, well, you know that the alert that you guys put out says that we're supposed to do this. Yeah, but you can let me through. You can do this or whatever. So finally, I had to start telling them. I had to start saying, when they get mad, and you'd have to sit up there and get cussed out and yelled at and all that, and you'd have to give them a salute all the time and stand at attention. And sometimes I'd have to stand back and say, okay, sir, that's enough, right? To let them know, like, I have a job to do, and you can get busted up too. You can get that, busted out here too, right? Sometimes you got to let even the people that are over know that. And thank you for that, Cash, right? But even in all that, I had to start telling them and explaining to them. There was one building, even in particular, where you had to serve duty there, and it was on this duty station, and basically the whole base, for the most part, were buildings without windows. Which, long story short, if you don't know what that is, basically stuff was really secure. Right. And we had to see what was coming in the building and what was coming out sometimes. Sometimes we legit not just had to have a metal detector. We had to have a couple of us that would be there and checking in and out to see what everybody had in their bags and stuff as they came in. Have a couple people there with their weapons inside the building ready to go. And then we even had to have somebody that was in the this room right next to it. Now, when you were in that room next to it, you basically couldn't leave ever. Even if the building caught on fire. Your job was to make sure that you called the fire department. Everybody had to leave the building except you, because somebody could try to get in or leave with something that was, extremely vital to national security. So I comprehend security. That's why sometimes you might think that I'm really close to the vest on certain things. I recognize how important it is to make sure certain things are secure, right? And I had to tell them, so people who were way above us and knew national security, but didn't recognize what it took to give them what they were asking us to provide, I would even have to tell 4-stars sometimes. I'd have to say, hey, look, what do you want from us? Do you want it to be easy, right? Do you want things to be comfortable? That was the word I would use. Do you want things to be comfortable, or do you want things to be secure? Because I can't guarantee both. If you want things to be extremely secure, and I was talking to people that were running the country, I'd have to tell them, if you want things to be extremely secure, you might need to just shut up right now and let me do what I'm doing. I would be more honorable when I was talking to them, wouldn't use those terms, but that's basically what I would tell them in a nice way, like, yo, if you want to come in and out the way you want, if you want this thing to work, if you want to make sure, like I was over prisoners that some of you have read about in the news and stuff like that. Even sometimes when I went to jail, prison, stuff like that, and we'd be over them. People that were fighting against, fighting against the country, that were considered to be traitors, all that stuff. And people that, if people knew where they were, like people from other countries would try to come get them, right? So we had to be very secretive, and people would try to mess that up, and we'd have to tell them, sometimes with an M60 from a tower, right? And if you know what an M60 is, an M60, that's a pretty powerful weapon. That's something that's going to cut you like scissors, right? Not trying to be, too graphic. I could be very, very graphic, but it's going to mess up your body. And while somebody was posted up, sometimes me, or if I was down, somebody be looking at you saying, yo, if you're not careful, like if you keep messing around, I don't care what your rank is. I don't care if you're my boss. You can get this. And we had to do that. Why? Because we had a job that was greater. We were supposed to preserve. We had a passion. We had a heart to preserve our country, so to speak. Right now, I realize it's not my country, but back then that was the mindset. So I get it. When people talk to me from that mindset, people be acting like I don't know what I'm talking about or things like that. I'm like, yeah, I know why you're dealing with the stuff the way you're dealing with, right? So did Rambo? I don't know if Rambo ever used an M60. If they did, he did used to pick up stuff that wasn't capable of picking up. Like you can't really run around with an M60, but he did used to pick up a lot of wild stuff. Oh, no problem, Denise. Thanks for being on. But you could easily with an M60, if you know how M60 works. It's not the most powerful weapon ever, but it's powerful enough, right? We would even be illegal sometimes. They put tracer rounds and stuff on them. We weren't supposed to do that, but anyways, but we let people know: do you want to be comfortable, or do you want to be secure? You said you have to 911. Your guard had to pull an officer. You had to guard the telecom building. You tried to run through the perimeter. Oh, okay. For the perimeter, yeah. Thanks for being part of the community. Is Holland Frost. How you doing? He said, yeah, when he shot up the sheriff's office in the end of the first one. Okay. Yeah, it can be like a saw. That weapon is powerful. It's fast, right? Those bullets ain't no joke, and the speed in which they're coming out ain't no joke. But what I'm saying is that do you want to be comfortable or do you want to feel secure? You go to the gun range. I promise you, like when we start going to the gun range together, because it's a plan, it's down the road, especially the brothers, I know the sisters want to get in too, especially the brothers. Ain't gonna be too many brothers unless they just don't want to, then they ain't gonna come to the gun range, right? But you go to the gun range, I promise you, like we ain't got time for nobody if you can't comprehend that your weapon is either down range or your weapon is straight down. I see many people get slapped upside the head. Not many. We were actually more disciplined, but I've seen enough examples of it where people will get slapped upside the head or just straight beat up because they don't comprehend weapon down range or straight down, right? Because my goal is security. Somebody will say, "Well, he just made a mistake." No, if that mistake can cost somebody their life. I'm here to preserve, right? And so, as a father with a father's heart, a father's passion, I have to ask my wife. I have to ask my children. Do you want things to be comfortable or do you want to be secure? Right? Do you want things to be comfortable or do you want to be secure? I've got to ask you. I got to see what you're about because a lot of people out there, they're not worried about security. They're worried about how comfortable they are. And a father's heart, we about securing. Right? Now we learn what it is to make sure that you're secure, but guess what? It's in our DNA, right? So we might not learn. So we might be great. See, this is what happens with a lot of brothers, right? And a lot of sisters. You might meet a brother, ladies, wives. you might get a husband, and the husband's very good at securing. He should be trained in all this stuff first, right? But he might be, and thanks for being part of Community Bravura, he might be very great at securing you physically, always looking out for you, this and that, or whatever, doing the job stuff. But he might not know how to secure, to secure you having somebody you can talk to about anything yet. See, so his heart is correct, but he might not comprehend how to use that passion, right? Remember, everybody loves this verse, Mark chapter 12, somewhere around verse 30 or so is where it starts, verse 29, verse 30. Love Elohim, that's action, achaba, the actions of the Most High. Love Elohim with what? With all thy heart. That's your passion. Then next is all your soul. Then next is all your mind. And then next is all your strength. Did you catch that order? First, your heart. Your heart is your passion. Next is your mind. That word mind there actually is dealing with pneumatical thought. So that's the thought, the stoic thought that marries the body, the soul, and the spirit together. So your passion's got to be correct, but now we got to get your mentality right. And then what happens after that? Then with your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole soul, right? Your soul, in that case, is really your lifestyle, or the place to where even that attaches your physical man to your spiritual man, right? And then after that, then it says, in all your strength. Then you become stronger in those things. There's a process to it. You should have to win the best friend role before she can trust you with her dreams. Yeah, sure. I guess we can go with that more and more, right? But what I'm saying is that ladies, there's just like you have to get perfected, your husband has to get perfected. And sometimes people think that they're perfect, and those are not husbands. When somebody thinks that they know everything, as a husband, that means that he can't be a husband. Husband's supposed to be a teacher. How many ladies, I can't tell you how many ladies I talk to, and they always waiting for their husband to become the person who's the expert in something. And they get tired. They're like, when is he going to be the teacher? When is he going to be the expert? When is he going to lead us in prayer? When is he going to do this? When is he going to do that? Right? Because it's not his passion. You found somebody, you got with somebody, but you didn't check their passion out. I keep saying that people are interested in dating. But dating means that you go by dates. That's why you even got a marriage date. Think about the terms we even use, right? Thanks for being part of Community Wildstar and D. Kinley. Think about, like, it doesn't take that much. We don't really care about a man's passion. I mean, people care about a man's credit, but not about his passion. How you doing, Sister Betty? Thanks for being on with us. People care about a man's credit, but they don't care about his passion. People care about a man's penis. Does he have LDE or BDE? I mean, think about these terms that people use. How many times you and all these little boys walking around here talking about they got BDE? But what's your passion? What's your vision? What's your mission? Instead of just telling them they can't have sex, that's great. They can't have sex. That's awesome. Tell them why. Why can't they? How is it going to hinder the mission? Have you had that conversation? Well, I don't know how deep we're going to get into sovereignty today. Like I said, we have sovereignty classes. Sovereignty comes up. Sovereignty is different than us anyways. A lot of people just want to be sovereign on paper. Sovereignty starts even in being an adult male. Sovereignty starts with making sure that you have land for your family. Sovereignty starts with ensuring that you don't have to drive because you travel. Right? These are things that we're talking about today. Sovereignty starts even with dealing with the Juneteenth, man. How many young boys, how many grown boys, because there's a lot of grown-up boys, who are going to go to Juneteenth celebrations today. They go to all these Juneteenth celebrations, and when they go, they're not even going to know what Juneteenth is about. They're not even going to know the difference between what happened at the end of the Civil War in Atlanta, and in Mississippi, and in Maryland, and in Georgia. Did I say Atlanta already? I don't know. And in Florida, and in Texas, and in Kansas. Once again, and if we could be honest, a lot of us not only don't have the hearts of a father or have never seen it, a lot of us have the heart of a slave. And this is when it gets really bad. Black, white, or otherwise, by the way. Even though I definitely focus more on our brethren, but or our diaspora, if you will. But black, white, whatever. A lot of people are more in tune with the heart of a slave. Right? And happy Father's Day to all that are coming on. And Shabbat, or Shalom, excuse me, Rashan Shalom to everybody coming on as well. But a lot of people are in tune with having the heart or the passion of a slave. You said counting as money won't keep a relationship because it will never be enough money for her. Yeah, and even in that, we'll be careful because sometimes somebody's love language might be gifts. Sometimes a woman's thinking about money as far as security, right? But I'm telling you, there's a lot of women that have a lot of security and still feel sad. There's some women, they don't care. There's some women don't care if they get cheated on, as long as you take care of them. I think that's a terrible place to be, and it shows some bad thought because eventually they'll still feel slighted by that. You said, what's the heart of a slave? Well, first of all, when we're talking about lob or passion, you're right, the word heart is really dealing with the word passion. And so if you say somebody's heart is in it, you're saying they're passionate about it. So a lot of people are passionate about slavery. So for example, how is somebody free to be a father if they're not free? Because if you pay taxes, for example, somebody was asking about sovereignty. We can put a little bit in here. If you pay taxes, right? And how you doing, Sister Tracy? Thank you. If you pay taxes, just real talk. If you pay taxes, then you're a slave because you're in debt. And if you're in debt, you're enslaved. That's the definition of a slave, right? If you don't own your own land, I'm not talking about a mortgage. Mortgage means that you're still paying somebody, right? So you're still in debt. It's not yours. I'm not, right? If you don't have your own vehicles, right? I'm not talking about a vehicle that you're still paying off. I'm talking about just yours. If you don't have something that is yours, that you own, that belongs to you, right? If you don't have something that belongs to you, then what? What is that? Right? That means that it's something that you're still enslaved. See, it's not as simple as, like, we could talk about, if you look up the definition in law as far as a black person, a colored person, a Negro, an African American, a Latino, etc. These are all considered to be artificial people by law, right? So you don't want to be that. I'm black all day, every day, but not on paper, right? But besides that, like, are you free enough to even be black? Like, what is black? Like, we talked about this before. What is a black community? How do you develop a black fathers, for people who say black fathers and all this stuff, or a father's heart or a black father, whatever? How do you develop a black father for a black community if he doesn't own his own community? How you doing, Chef? Right? I've talked about this before. You can't say that you got a black community and you don't own it. A lot of people just be like, oh yeah, the ghetto, the hood, that's the black community. How many of y'all own in the ghetto or the hood or in the project? They put you in a place and called it a project. You are the project, right? They put you in a place and told you straight up, you are the project. But you still talking about the black community. That's not yours. It's not black. The person who owns it, the Chinese man that you go to get wings from at his place where he's not even really giving you real Chinese food. When I go to a Chinese place, or when I go to a Chinese store, I be messing with them because they go there and they try to just give you what's on the board. A lot of times I'll be like, no, give me this, blah, blah, blah. They be like, oh, we don't really sell that. How you know about that? Because I know that you have real food. You feed me the fake stuff. You feed me the stuff that is detrimental to me. You feed me the stuff you won't eat. I don't want the stuff you won't eat. I want the stuff you eat. Give me the real stuff. And they'll actually come and they'll be surprised and they'll give you respect after that when you come by. They'll look at you different because they're like, yo, when he come by, he actually wants real food, right? Like, that's a sovereign mentality. But anyways, but you go to their place for the food. You don't own that. I'm talking about specifically if you go there, when you go for some of these things or whatever, and they give you vegetables, ask them about, like, it's on the, just ask them about different vegetables. Ask them for the stuff you can't pronounce, right? Ask them for different things. Ask them for just different stuff as far as different versions of sprouts that they have. It's not really that hard, right? I'm not saying that they have to give them Chinese names. I'm talking about, ask them for the real sprouts, or ask them for like broccoli, but say don't, do certain things to the broccoli as far as cooking out the nutrients, right? Ask them for things that are a little more raw. Ask them for some of the things as far as like, you'll go there, you'll be like General Tso's, whatever, right? General Tso's is not an actual um, Chinese recipe, right? If you go there for orange chicken is not an actual original Chinese recipe, right? Or you go in there for chicken wings, like chicken wings is your stuff, right? Mambo sauce is your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, ask them for the stuff that they eat. If you get a chance, well, this might be too much study or research for some people. But if you get a chance, watch what they eat, or go to a Chinese restaurant and get and order, like, not a corner store, but go to a Chinese restaurant and actually look at the items. Once again, some of the stuff, like we go to Thai restaurants all the time, or if we go, well, not all the time. I don't even really like Thai food, but if I go there, I'm looking for specific type of vegetables, because they make their stuff different. If I go to a pho restaurant, I'm looking for. I don't really eat, sinews and things like that or whatever. But you go to a pho restaurant, I need that because that's how they make their stuff. You got to recognize too. Like, a lot of people don't know, when you're eating certain things, some of the best stuff that's considered to be delicacies now are actually some of the stuff that used to be for the poor folk, right? So, like, when you eat pho, when you go and eat pho, for example, if you ate pho, PHO, um, Vietnamese meal, that used to be something poor folk had to eat. So you'll see it with like sinews and meatballs and this and that or whatever. They were trying to find whatever pieces of the meat that they could and just put it together, right? And then they took leaves off of trees. Like, my wife actually takes some of the leaves from the stuff every once in a while. She'll wrap it up and she'll, like, allow it to grow. And she's actually grown huge like leaves and stuff to be able to eat and make the pho at home and stuff, right? But like, they'll give you fresh stuff. They're gonna give you sprouts. They're gonna give you all types of stuff. You want I want the extra sprouts. Give me extra sprouts. Give me this. Give me that. Your sauces. I want your sauces. Don't just give me the hot sauce everybody else use and the stuff. No, give me the stuff that you bring from your country, right? Like, I want the experience because it's your culture. And when you eat in your culture, you're gonna eat healthy, right? American culture. That's why people say there's not really American culture. America doesn't really do anything for health reasons. So a lot of people don't consider it to be cultural. But you got to recognize, like, we're doing all this stuff. So when you pick from somebody else's stuff, it's like with soul food. Soul food became something that became more greasy over time, but they didn't have like all this grease that they were using to cook back in the 1700s and 1800s. Even if they were eating, you know, not we act like all soul food was centered around chitlins and stuff like that. No, or they were always eating macaroni and cheese. Like, a lot of times they were eating poke salad, they were eating watermelon, stuff that we're afraid of now because it makes us look bad, right? But if you don't have a neighborhood that can set up your culture, how do you say that you even raising a black culture? What is black culture without black land? What is native culture without native land? Right? If somebody can go through, like, how much land do you really have if somebody can keep threatening to come through your land and putting pipes in there? How do you have Israelite culture if you don't have land? That's why land is very important to us. How am I the father I need to be without land? I need to have some place to where everything that I need to happen is going to be able to happen. Watch this, ladies. Why is it in a father's heart? Why is it your husbands always want a place? They call it, maybe they call it a man cave or something like that. But why are they always looking for a place to where they can be? Why is it, they just want a place they can be? I don't even think you realize. You be thinking it's a place where they can play pool, a place where they can watch movies, a place where they can do sports, a place where they can get away. No, no, no. They just want a place they can be men. You said you want to buy land and build on it, but why should I have to pay taxes on it? You don't. All the reason you pay taxes is because you're more into being a U.S. citizen than being a non-citizen national. But it goes bigger than just that paperwork. You said go to the restaurant right before they close and you will see what they really eat. That's a great point too. If you really want to see some stuff too, find out the closing time or whatever, see when they start sitting down and eating or whatever, and check it out. When we go to Ethiopian restaurants, we look for specific things pretty much every single time. You know why? Because we know that's something that they eat. They might eat a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know about. Well, these specific things they do eat, right? Why do I love jollof rice? One of the reasons I love it is because it's amazing, and I know our brethren from where we are, Ghana and Nigeria, they fight against each other over who's the best, but both of them do it well. Right, both of our brethren do it well. However, real talk, I like jollof rice because jollof rice is something that when you get the real deal, right? Some people be messing it up and putting you all these things online, but when you get the real deal, you got it. It's going to be healthy. It's going to be great, right? Like you order lunchtime too, right? But you gotta see. But it's about culture, and see when you go to and one of the things that's missing from us is that we don't think that it's that important to do it. By the way, right? Well, once again, you said, why should you just pay taxes for something that God's giving you for free? You pay taxes because you've agreed to it. You got your signature on something, or your parents' signature is on something that says that you have to pay taxes for it, right? If you take your name off of it, then you don't have to pay taxes. Or if at least you know how to tell them and then write a cease and desist correctly, you don't have to do so. But once again, we have classes on that. That's not really the focus today, right? Oh yeah, Japanese supermarket in Okinawa or Tokyo is cool seeing. Yeah, or even checking out the way that they do their tuna. There's a specific way the tuna is supposed to be cut. People go to school and in Japan. Somebody might be in school 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. They might be working 4 more years before they're even allowed to cut food in front of you. You know why? Because even the way it's cut is cultural. If they don't cut it correctly, it's a slight on the culture. They don't care what color you are, right? Well, they do in a sense. They protect it, right? But if you're going to go to their school, they don't really care what color you are, but you better make sure that you represent their culture because that's how they do things. And you don't have anything for fathers that protect the father's heart. We talk about protecting our women. We don't have anything for fathers that protect the father's heart. And when you don't have anything that protects the father's heart, it makes it difficult, right? You go over a Chinese family's house. You go over a Korean family's house. You go over a Japanese family's house. You go over a Taiwanese family's house. You go over a Vietnamese family member's house. You go over a Thai family member's house right now, right? You go over there and you check out what comes out on the plate, and everything looks like their culture. Everything looks like them. Everything looks like what they want their children. The food looks a certain way. When you go there, the plate looks a certain way. When you go there, the chopsticks look a certain way. When you go there, the bowls that are there are the bowls that you dip in one thing are going to look different than the bowls you dip in something else. They have to have a specific way, right? If you go to an Italian family's house, there's going to be a specific smell. There's going to be a specific way. There's going to be specific things you're supposed to do. If you go over certain people's homes in other countries, it's okay for them to burp. Matter of fact, you go to certain places, you better burp, right? You think it's this, that, or whatever. You go to certain countries, you better burp because in their country, it means that to burp says, man, this food was really great. If you don't burp, they're going to be like, why didn't you burp? Right? They're going to look at you strange like, well, I can't cook. Like you trying to say, but you think because of just where you come from. Every place you go, they have a culture when it comes even to the food. When you come to a African American's home and you sit down to eat, what looks like an African American? You can't find anything because there's no such thing, right? You said Wild just was talking about minimalism versus structures with detail and meaning, or minimal system of minimal versus structures with detail and meaning. Okay. It's cultural differences. There's culture to everything. And we're some of the only people that don't want our culture or deny the fact that we should have our culture represented. Like we got something to say about everybody else's culture, but when it's time for your culture to be represented, we got something to say why it doesn't need to be represented. Well, I'm not a Jew because we don't have the letter J, but for those who want to be Jews, that's fine. But those that are Avda, Ifrit, Ivre, Yasrel, etc., part Kemetic, part Cushitic. That's what Israelites are, by the way. Native American mix, all that stuff. But yeah, you should know how to cook meals of your own. You should know how to cook North African. Matter of fact, if you know about the scattered people and you know about Negro land, even on a map, if you know about that, guess what you should do? You should make sure that you comprehend West African cooking. You should comprehend Kemetic, not Egyptian, but Kemetic cooking. You should comprehend what it is to have Cushitic cooking, Moroccan cooking, Spanish cooking, because guess who taught the Spanish to cook? The Moors. And guess who were part of the Moors? You were. Like, there's a culture that comes there, but when you go to our homes, where does our culture show up? What's on our plate? There are more people who know how to make pizza, right, than to know what kind of dates you should use with your meal. Thank you, Sister Sharice. Appreciate the love, right? A lot of us, like, this is a cultural thing. And so once again, the heart of a father, how do you have a heart of a father of Yashta if you don't even know how to produce a culture that allows him to grow in his passion, that allows him to flourish? How do you have a proper father and he never sees a proper culture? It's a lot. How do you do it? Is it even possible? For some reason, we think it is feasible, and we think it is possible. We think it is necessary for us to develop spiritually bred fathers without having any kind of society to put them into. And does that society even value his heart? Men wearing earrings? I mean, it depends on tribal stuff and things like that. It's something that I don't worry about. Men or women wearing earrings, nose rings, things like that. It really depends. It's not a bad thing or a great thing. It depends on which tribe or what kind of part of the culture that you're trying to take on. So that doesn't really, um, like, people don't realize, like Rebecca, for example, even though people could say, well, Israel wasn't together yet, but Israel comes out of Rebecca, if you will. But nevertheless, Rebecca came running. And when she met Isaac, and she bowed down to him and everything. And guess what? If you read what it says, she had earrings, a lot of earrings, and more than likely had a nose ring and had a connection that went from one to another. Especially if you know like what tribe she was, what kind of person she was. So but all that stuff. But once again, you got to have a culture. We're trying to do this stuff without a culture. We're trying to do this without land. We're trying to do this without meeting up with each other. For everybody else, I need you to comprehend, for everybody else, this is how they've messed you up. This is why you got to understand how rich you are. Yashua, Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. This is why you got to comprehend. You got to start teaching yourselves again. Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 through 9. Right? This is why you got to comprehend that you got to be sealed. Revelation chapter 7. This is why you got to comprehend. You got to come to yourself and be separate. Revelation chapter 12. That's verses we don't even talk about. But you got to recognize that without your culture, we can't determine what a father is. We have to listen to what somebody else. We are the only people, because we're still mentally enslaved. Remember, I said that somebody asked earlier, what do you mean? And there's a difference between the heart of a father and the heart of a slave. We are a heart of a people that are in debt so much that we're in debt to anger. We're in debt financially. We're in debt as far as prayers. We're in debt as far as we don't even know who we are. We're in debt as far as lifting up each other's businesses. Right? Thank you, B Moon. Appreciate you. Right? We're in debt to so many different things. Right? We're in debt to so many different things. Thank you, Sister Rhonda. We're in debt to so many different things that we don't even know how to build ourselves. We as a people, we are in big trouble. Dr. Cloud Anderson been trying to tell us for the longest time that in 1865, less than 0.5%, so less than 0.5% of the wealth of America was in Black hands. And now in 2022, guess what? Less than 0.5% of the wealth is in Black people's hands. But you make up so much money that if you would just take Black money, right, what we consider to be Black, and that's not even all the people that should be considered to be Black, but that's just the people who on paper consider themselves to be Black. We should be the number 8 nation in the world. But we still have less than 0.5% of the wealth. We make so much money and have so little to show for it because we're in debt. Right? Because we're in debt. Our credit score is used in other countries in the West and places like that. Some places, some people actually go off the actual definition of credit. Credit used to mean I pay you $500. I come and get something for $50. I still got $450 credit. Right? Some people actually use credit the way it is. Some people don't have taxes on land. Some people don't, some people don't believe that you should own land, to each their own. But just to kind of get into this, even in those other places, because there's other things that still determine things. But I'm trying to show you, like, we don't have anything that we care enough about to say that we're going to use this to our credit, so to speak. All right, Louisiana in the house, and happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth to everybody, right? But how do you get a father to be a father when he doesn't have an environment that shows him a father? How do you get him to be by diaspora, a black father, and he doesn't have an environment that says this is what a black father is? How do you get them to be in an environment where you say he's a man of Elohim, and he doesn't have an environment that says that he's a man of Elohim, right? How you doing, Sister Irena? Right? How do you do that? The answer is you don't. Everywhere else they do that. We are the only people that think that one of us should get out because it's a slave mentality. Remember, as slaves, you might have a group of people that work for 20, 30, 40 years to finally afford freedom for one person that they invest their hopes and dreams in and say, cool, you go out and you be better. And that means you'll be able to take care of the society. Hopefully one day you'll come back. And they go and they become better. And they don't want to go back because to try and go back to the slave master is to maybe be a slave again. So they leave it alone. Even though they'll help out much as they can, maybe they'll be part of the Underground Railroad or something, but they can't do but so much, right? However, you go with the right. So we set a mentality where we think that leaving our community alone is making it, and then we'll tell you from the places that we're making it how great we are. We won't come visit you. We won't see about you. We won't talk to you. We won't set up visits, anything. But we'll make sure that we tell you things. We'll say, be better, stop being a victim, and be a victor. All that stuff, right? Meanwhile, though, everybody else, right? People will come from Cuba being shot at, not knowing how to swim, come over and somehow, some way build up a Cubano community. People will come from Puerto Rican and work for 20 years, try their best to make sure that they maintain as much faithfulness in the marriage as they can, not even see their children, and then finally bring over their spouse and their children again and make sure that they start building the community. People come right now from the Ukraine. While they're kicking out African people and telling them they got to go back to Africa, they're having people come from the Ukraine because there are people that are Russian here, Ukrainian here, that have been here for years, that are family members, and make sure that they have a place to stay. Right? You have people who come over just like we used to have to, and they'll come over from other countries and live in a house. 5 families live in an apartment. 5 families, 2-bedroom apartment. Somehow, some way make it work. Somehow, some way be quiet when they're in there, do everything they need to. Make sure that every child goes to school, and they put every child through something that says, hey, you're going to be the lawyer in the family. You're going to be the doctor. You're going to be the nurse. You're going to be the person who owns restaurants. You're going to be the person who does cars. You're going to be the person who does this. They tell everybody has a specific thing, because when they come out of this in 1-2 generations, they're going to come out of this and never be in the situation that they were in ever again. And anybody that comes against it is somebody that might even be kicked out the family, because you got to be part of this plan. However, with us, go do your own thing. With us, once you're 18, you got to get a job. You got to get up out of here. You said, brother, how do you not rip off tiny pieces hanging of my hair? Because my hair is something, well, all of this, all the tiny pieces that you don't like or whatever, they're all connected to my hair. And secondly, I could care less about what you think about my hair. My tribe likes my hair. My tribe says that this is what we do. My family's okay with it. My wife's okay with it. I sleep with her, not with you. But anyways, like these are the things that we're dealing with, right? And even in our community, like something like that, right? It's more about somebody's hair than about the fact that maybe this person knows what they're talking about. So like these things that we're dealing with, you have to realize and recognize and think specifically about like, why is it that we're so anti us? It's because you've been taught to. People are more concerned about hair than they are about land. People are more concerned, like, some people, and I'm not trying to say I'm all that, because a lot of you can afford to go to the beach or whatever if you wanted to, right? But some people who can't do this, if they wanted to, maybe should be concerned about what is it that we can do to help you out as a community. But we're taught to come against each other more than that. How you doing, Miss Matt? Shalom. And once again, happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day to everybody, right? But that's the mindset, because we're still enslaved. Once again, what did they say? What did William say? We have reversed their nature. We took the mind, but we kept the body. We kept the body, but we took the mind. Oh, that's fine, Sister Barbara. If they didn't mean it in a bad way, right? I'm just saying the substance of the conversation maybe should be focused on more. So I apologize if that was taken. Maybe I took it in the wrong way, right? What I'm trying to say is overall, right? I can do wrong. So once again, I apologize. Overall, though, like it's a culture. And the only reason that question or whatever even exists is why would we look at that as being bad? You know, like why do we even look at split ends as being bad? Why? Let me ask you something, even though I don't believe we should have this, right? But why is it that we even look at ashy skin as something that's bad? Like, there's a lot of people who are white. I'm not saying all, I'm not saying even most. I'm saying there's a lot by admittance of people who would say that they don't even use lotion. Why is it okay for them to have dry skin but you not? I don't think you should, right? I think it's a health concern, and so that's why we even promote people on here who do a great job, like Bev's Body Butter and other people who have their own lotions, and Sister Kelly who has her own soap and different things like that, and my wife, of course, who has health, has tinctures, natural medicine, and Sister Minister Sonia who does a lot with healing, things like that. You know, but I'm talking about why do we even think about those things more than the fact that we don't have something that belongs to us? Why is that? And here's one of the things I think even too that comes with it. If I can just even, I wasn't really going to focus on it, but now that it keeps being brought up, somewhat by me, but the Holy Spirit saying kind of stick on this. One of the things that really blesses me, because my son Solomon, he has the same hair that I have, right? And I get a lot of comments on his hair from people who are saying great things about it. Um, a lot of people tell me he looks free. That's something that I got, especially from a lot of pastors and preachers and stuff. And I never really used to get it, but I get it now and also because he's homeschooled too, but he has a different thought process than many do. So he looks free. He's free. He doesn't come off the same as everybody else does. Not just with that, but with his, oh, great. He just poured stuff, just spilled stuff on me. Anyways, he looks free. He has a very free life. He gets to learn and be on the road. He gets to speak different languages. He takes college courses with us. A lot of times, even when y'all see me saying, hold on one second, or please excuse me, I'm actually trying to talk to him and get him settled because he's taking classes with us. He knows Hebrew characters. He's speaking French. He comprehends some Spanish. He comprehends some Kiswahili. And he gets to be free. And and he's getting, going back to what we were talking about, like it's a sign even of his freedom. What grows out of his head gets to be him. He doesn't have to alter it. If he decides to, as he gets to be an adult, hopefully he won't. I did when I got to be an adult, but hopefully he won't. Because I was trying to do the military thing and then tried to be a preacher afterwards, and they told me a preacher was supposed to look a certain way until I realized that was foolishness. That right, but he's an environment that I'm not that I never had a chance to be in as a child, where he gets to see himself every day. He gets to be himself every day. He gets to see himself. And when I see that he might be tuning into people that don't necessarily care about him the way that we do as a culture, I get to tell him to stop as a father, because I have a father's heart, and my passion is to see him do well, to make sure he feels secure. It is also a part of every father's passion to feel respected and to feel heard. And so I get to set up an environment to where he gets to feel respected and to feel heard. So when he's looking for his wife, because his mother makes sure he feels respected and feels heard, and his father makes sure he feels respected and feels heard, will he get anything from his wife and demand anything from his wife, anything less than? And yes, every once in a while you should demand something as a husband or wife. And so will he demand anything less than to be heard? Right? He won't, because he's had that. You know, I'm talking about the line from Kanye, sure. Right? Even Kanye is a great example of somebody who every day you see him at war with himself. Has this thing in him that wants to make sure that he takes care of himself and take care of his people at the same time. Doesn't think that he can do it by being himself. You know, And even when you're talking about the question just brought up, like, how do you help a child's mental health? Well, with a father's heart, once again, do we have a place that we set? See, here's the deal. Everything's starting with culture. We keep saying this. What is the environment? What is the environment that you raise a child in? Somebody said, how do you help a child's mental health? How do you help anybody's mental health if you don't have an environment to do so? Is there an environment that says that our children are supposed to be taken care of as far as their mental health? We got to ask the question. Matter of fact, the fact that we have to ask that question should be a problem. Fathers, if they're masculine, it's toxic. Mothers, if they're not strong and independent, they're weak. Um, Children, if they can't tell you what their sexual identity is at 1, 2 years old, at let alone preschool, they don't fit in. It's we have to be honest about this and be honest about this approach. And our approach has something that we should have. There should be reproach. We should actually go against it. You know, and we have to think once again, like, what is the environment? What is the environment? You can't see them from here, but there's a lot of minnows that pop up. I don't even know if they're out yet. They usually come a little later in the evening, right? But in this little area, well, actually a little further down here, it's kind of like a nice little. It's not really private. This is a hotel and everything, but it's kind of like a nice little private beach. On the other side is where I think over there somewhere is where like the main beach is where we are. We found this place by accident last year. And if you guys remember, I was saying, those who've been with us for a while, and I was saying we were trying to do something and didn't know if we be, it was taking us too long to get where we were going, and we found this place, and it was nice and everything. But there's a nice little place where minnows pop up, and literally, so we were just sitting up there, and we were laying down with the fish. We were just laying down with the fish, right? And the environment was one to where you had to get used to, right? You had to get used to. They weren't like nipping at us or anything, but they were, swimming, and they started like even running into us, touching it, right? And so you had to be willing to get used to it. And then I started putting my hand out that I was trying to show him, because he was like, I want to catch a fish. So, in his exuberance, he's in the water and he's searching through all of the water and he's trying to touch the fish. And of course, when you do that, even though they were comfortable with us, they don't really want to be bothered. So I showed him, I was like, okay, let me show you how to be in your environment, right? Father to son. And I told him, like, calm down, some dudes. He still was trying to reach. So he was like, I want to catch. So he still reached out. So I showed him, I put my hand in the water and I just held it there. And I submerged myself just to make sure that, my neck and head were out and my whole body was in there. I was allowing the water to let me sway back and forth like they were. I was showing that my mouth and everything wasn't near them so they wouldn't get freaked out. And I simply just put my hands out and they started swimming into my hand, right? And so I was trying to show him, if you really want to have a fish in the environment is showing you what it is that you need to do. And so as a father, it's not my goal to like be over my son as much as it is to be over the environment and to show him how to take charge over the environment. That's when you have authority. I, as a father who have certain authority or have learned certain things from the authority who created heaven and earth, am able to authorize or give him something that says, hey, you can use this too. You're authorized to use it. You've been taught to use this. You've been shown to use this, right? And the same thing happens with our environment. Once again, what is our environment that's set up to where our boys are going to get this? Like, one thing we've been trying to do, and it's not for lack of you guys, it's just lack of time sometimes too, but we've been trying to set up something for a while. And one of the things that our brothers, when we talked yesterday for our monthly meeting, we made it a point to say, like, we're going to make sure that we get these things done. We're going to ensure that, like certain people were like, yo, I'm good in this age range. I'm good in this age range. Okay, cool. I said, be ready, because you're going to get a call about some of these young brothers. And you need to make sure that you stay on them. And I don't care if you're in the same state or whatever. Like, you need to make sure you call them. You need to be invested in them, right? Show them love. Give them an environment. No, not an SOC meeting. It was for the brothers. We'll probably try to do an SOC meeting next week. I'm surprised we even did the one for the brothers, in all honesty, because you can hear my voice is still not back yet all the way. But but like there has to be an environment, right? And even for those of us that are dealing like with the loss of a child, or some people, a child in prison, or different things that are going on, you have to realize and recognize like there's a lot to it, and we should be willing and ready and righteous in setting up an environment. We don't have the environment set up, right? We don't have the environment set up. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce the name, but what's up to you too? Deissied. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so forgive me. But thanks for being on with us, right? Fathers are going to be grown in an environment like anything else. Would you grow? Would you grow an aloe plant in Alaska? Would you grow? Would you grow a potato? Um, would you grow a potato in the sand near near the beach water? Would you grow? And watch somebody find something that I'm talking about where it exists, you know. But would you grow? Would you grow? Would you grow a palm tree um, in in Russia? There's a lot of things that you have to look at its environment. A lot of people say, "Oh, Chicago, they're killing each other. They're killing each other." What's the environment? Is that an environment for killing, or is that an environment for healing? And if you have an environment for killing, then you should probably expect killing. Yeah, bananas in England or something like that, right? There comes to be a certain time where it's like you should probably look at the environment, and we don't have an environment that deals with a father's heart. Like before we even talk about the little boys, you got to talk about the fathers who were once little boys who were raised without a father's heart, and those people that should have raised them were once little boys who were raised without a father's heart, and those people that should have raised them were once little boys that were raised without a father's heart, and it goes to the same place. Thank you, Sister Sharice, appreciate it. And we're so busy talking about the little boy or talking about the modern issue, and we won't talk about what set up the modern issue. The environment that set it up is the problem. The lack thereof is the problem. You know how many black people will tell me that they are Moors, and I love it. Like, learn who you are. But can you tell me what type of Moor? Can you tell me what Moorish land you have? Can you tell me that you have land where you're going to be able to develop your Moorish system? Can you show me your Moorish garbs? You know how many people tell me that they are Israel? I love it. Learn who you are. Be strong in it. All day, every day. Know your word. Have all those things together. Question for you though. Do you have anything Israelite? Do you have anything with fringes? Do you have any dates and fruit that's from your people? Do you celebrate any of the holy days? Do you speak any other language? Not modern, because modern is not yours. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't learn modern at all. At one day, I want to learn it. My wife actually knows more modern Hebrew than I do. I know more paleo. She knows more modern. That's great, right? But can you speak? Can you speak it? Can you live it? Can you address it? If you were to see somebody walking down the street and they were wearing Israel, that's what happens, right? When you're wearing clothing, you're wearing your culture. When you wear Dolce and Gabbana, you're not wearing your culture. But some people think if you're wearing Dolce, that's it. You arrive, but that's not even you. When you're wearing Gucci, some people think you got it. You done arrived. Even if you're wearing cheap Gucci or rocking a cheap Gucci bag, and cheap is what, 300, 400, 500? But you think you done arrived because you got Gucci on. What does that mean? Why is it that somebody else's culture means you've arrived? Once again, when it comes to our fathers, why is it that other people's ideas as fathers, especially on today, Juneteenth, why is it that a lot of people are trying to use foreign fatherly concepts instead of our kingdom natural concepts, or even seps and precepts? Precept the environment, sept the idea, concept becoming one with the idea. Thank you for being a part of the community night cyclical. We're and thank you for being part of the community, Johnny Watson. Like, we have a problem where we want to have strong fathers, but we don't have a community, we don't have land, we don't have culture, we don't have certain rules and regulations. See, if anything, learn at least rules and have something, even if you don't agree with every single thing. Like, there's people that might not agree with all the negative confessions of my aunt. I don't. But at least I know the confessions of my aunt. You know why? Because if I run into somebody else who agrees with those confessions of my aunt, then that means that we can at least have a standard, right? It might not be my Afrocentric standard that I like, but it's an Afrocentric standard. So if I meet somebody who's Afrocentric and they study my aunt meaning righteousness. So if they understand righteousness, righteousness means right legal standing, then it means that we both at least have some kind of law that governs. I might still say that I feel like there's a law that I follow that supersedes this law of my aunt, but hey, there's certain things in there that I'm all about. Making sure that you worship who you serve, the person who I believe is Elohim. They might believe it to be Ra or Imhotep or somebody else, but hey, worship that person, worship to the best of your ability. Okay, I do that too. We have a standard, right? But it starts with a culture, right? It starts with the culture, and you got to comprehend. Are you okay with continuing to have somebody else's culture who doesn't train you? Because somebody else's culture will not train your sons to be fathers. So stop looking for your sons to be fathers if you keep having them be part of a culture that will not train your sons to be fathers. Oh yeah, you say when they wear anything, yeah. Jews would get mad. You know why Jews would get mad? Because you're coming to, you're willing to say that you're no longer a slave. Remember, the biggest people in the slave trade, people think that the Jews that are here now are people that all came from another country. Biggest people who were involved in the slave trade were Ashkenazi and Khazarian Jews. Straight up. All over the world. That's why you'll see Jewish people all over the world. They made money off you. So when you start, and they took the Jews, just like we as Israelites, they take great notes. And so when you read their notes, guess what they said? They said, oh yeah, we had Israelites that were our slaves. They know who you are. Of course they would be angry that you would be coming back to yourself. Some of them just do it out of ignorance. But once again, you got to figure out, like, what is your culture? So, right, you got to say, am I willing to stand up? Then it comes to a place where, are we willing to come together? Are we willing to be around each other? Right? Once again, it used to be us. It used to be us, right? Oh, amen, Diggin. We appreciate having you here, right? It used to be us that would come together. It used to be us that 5 families would be in one house. It used to be us that we had to have our own businesses because we were segregated. It used to be us, we were okay with being kings and queens because that's what we were. We were okay with having tribes because that's what we were. We were okay with loving on each other because that's what we did. But now in recent times, they say stop being black and start being African American. And matter of fact, take that African off and just say you're American. But then they don't want to tell you that, real talk, definition wise, you are the original American, because the original American was a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. And the only reason why that changed is because they did that daggone Boston Tea Party, threw some stuff off, put on blackface and put on the stuff that they had scalped off of your ancestors. And they said, now we're the Americans. And we believed them. First of all, we believed them because American was not even something we called ourselves. Remember, we've talked about this over and over again recently. If something's fine, what happens is, in order for you to start messing with it, something fine, you have to define it. You got to break it down. So they look at you, they study you, what's fine, and then they define you. They break you down. And once they finish breaking you down, what do they do after that? Now they redefine you. And then once you agree with what's redefined, you're no longer fine. Did somebody catch that? Let me say it again. How you doing, Minister Select Sharon? Thanks for sharing. Once again, if something's fine, what you do is you take what's fine and you define it. You break it down. You study it and you break it down. You say, this is how it works and this is how we're going to use it. Once you do that, you redefine it. And once people agree with what is redefined, it's no longer fine. At least the people that were originally fine are no longer fine. How you doing? Tupac Israelite? Okay, I haven't seen that one before. Right? So if you would take us and leave us as the standard, as being fine, a lot of this redefined nonsense goes away. We're fighting against redefinition, not against definition. We're fighting against redefinition. We're fighting, and really, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality. Principality is what? Origin and kingdom. Kingdom origin. When you were kings and queens, what did you do originally? Did you eat what they tell you to eat originally? Did you parent Father's Day? Did you parent the way that they used to have? What was your heart? What was your passion as a father? Whether you were Kiswahili, whether you were over Spain, whether you were teaching the British or the Brutish, whether you were teaching those who were trying to figure out how to make land that were coming over in the west, coming over to the west from, because remember, the west used to be you. Now you think west, you think somebody else, but you used to be the west. And when they were coming over to you to learn, because they were eating each other because they couldn't even grow anything over here, what did you have to teach them? What did you have to show them? Right? When they try to put all this corn and stuff and things like that, were you eating the corn that they give you, or was your corn even in different colors? And was it even something that you ate that much because you didn't really, you found it as a source for different things, but not necessarily so much for food because you didn't really digest it that well? What was a carrot? What did a carrot look like before the carrots that you eat now? Do you know the difference between a white carrot and an orange carrot? Once again, how do you have a father if he doesn't have an environment to come out of? In this environment, right? In this environment that I'm in, I don't know if you'll see him over here, right? Maybe if I find him somewhere else, maybe I can post some stuff later. But in this environment that I'm in, over near here, you'll find dolphins in this environment. I don't think they're even ready at this time to come out yet. I'm not sure, but this is kind of shallow over here for them and stuff. But around this environment, you'll find dolphins, right? If I were to take the dolphin and put him where I'm sitting now, would that dolphin survive? See, we make the mistake because we can see the environment. We think that just because we can see it, that means that we'll thrive in it. If a dolphin was sitting right where I'm sitting, I'm not that far, right? If you look, let me show on YouTube and on TikTok, right? On YouTube, y'all see I'm not that far from where the water is. On TikTok, let me show you. I'm not that far, right, from where the water is, right? But in this environment, if I were to sit this close and I was a dolphin, would it help me? Right? Maybe I could possibly flip flop or roll in there. Maybe some human being would have some mercy on me and come and push me or whatever, right? But after a while, because of the way my body's structured, even though I'm a mammal and even though I breathe air, I would still collapse, right? My lungs and things would collapse. The weight of everything in me would collapse because it's designed specifically to be in an environment. I was created for a specific environment. So I can be close to something, I can see it, I can even smell it, right? Might even come up to where the tide hits me, but it's not going to be enough to bring me back in. And I'll end up dying close to the environment rather than being in the actual environment, right? And a lot of people are dying because, once again, fathers are dying. They're close to the environment. We're getting close. But the heart, remember, Malachi chapter 4, verse 6 started the whole situation. The heart of the fathers will return to the children, and the heart of the children have to return to the fathers. What is the father's heart? Is there an environment that has the father's heart in mind? Stop talking about, well, we got Happy Father's Day. Okay, that's close. That's great. Celebrate your fathers. Now, what are you going to do to make sure that your fathers have an environment that makes sure that they are rewarded? See, because when you're rewarded for being a father, that's when you really go get it. Somebody missed that. When you're rewarded, sorry, my voice isn't there, or else I'd really be giving, because I'm feeling this right now, but my voice isn't really as strong as I wanted to be. But man, when you feel rewarded for being a father, there's nothing like it, right? When you get rewarded, when there's an environment that says that you will be rewarded for being a father, right? You know why? Because boys were raised on games. I've talked about this before. Let me talk about it again, right? Like little girls, I'm not saying all, right? There's exceptions to every rule, but a lot of little girls are raised on Barbie or certain things that are similar to Barbie, right? And Barbie gets to tell Ken whatever. Barbie, it's Barbie's house, it's Barbie's car, it's Barbie's world, it's Barbie's clothes. And Ken, just like all of Barbie's clothes and house and everything, Ken is just another accessory. And the person, and the way that, and whatever Barbie says, Ken agrees with, because Barbie and Ken are both controlled by the same person, right? However, hear what I'm saying. When it comes to brothers, we play games. Games have rules. How you doing, Big Ox? Games have rules. Oh yeah, we do classes live. Yeah, for sure. You can look up more information on our TikTok page. Look where it says website. Click on that, and you'll be able to find more stuff through that link tree, right? And you can get in contact with us too, and we can have better conversation about it, right? But and even if you go to our YouTube page, which you can find on TikTok, go to TikTok, click where it says website, and then once it pops up, click on the YouTube page. Make sure you go in order. But our last few videos, when you click on videos on YouTube, and our last few videos, we have it set up. You can just put your information in there, and we should be able to add it to what we have going on. Right? Hear what I'm telling you. We must, we will. We have to set up an environment where men are rewarded, where fathers are rewarded. First of all, we got to be rewarded for being boys. Can we start there? Can I tell you something? I've talked about the 7 stages of how we raise our men, right, in our culture. But can I give you those 7 again? And some of you who haven't heard this may be surprised or shocked that we actually do have a standard. But where's the standard for raising us as men? Believe it or not. And so these are the 7 stages. Ages 0 to 3, you teach him he's a boy. Ages 4 to 6, you wean him from his mother. Ages 7 to 9, you make sure that he comprehends that, he's his father's apprentice. Ages 10 to 12, you make sure he gets extreme education. Ages 13 to 15, you train him on what a man is. On ages 16 to 18, you train him on what a husband is. Ages 19 to 21, you train him on what a father is. After that, you give him his inheritance, and he finds a wife, finds a great thing, adds a mansion on to his father's stuff. They keep the wealth in the family, and you keep it moving down for generations, right? If you were to take those 7 things and reward those 7 things in our environment, because once again, men play games. We were raised on games, and games have rules, and games have rewards, and games have a certain amount of lives and everything, right? And we get into these dating games, though, and dating games, they don't necessarily have rules, and they don't necessarily have regulations, and they don't necessarily have rewards. And then we go to other people's cultures, and they don't necessarily have rules, and they don't have regulations, and they don't have rewards, right? You got to set up something that rewards him. So he starts looking to be somebody else. So of course he would try to be a social construct, white man, or he would try to be a better man, or he tried to be a rich man, or he tried to be this, because being a black man or being an Israelite man or being a Moorish man is not enough, because nobody rewards it in this system. Matter of fact, people look down upon it. Matter of fact, if you want to be a strong black father, we say that those don't exist, right? Don't we say that? And if they don't exist, then why would I try to become something that's non-existent, or become something that people would say doesn't exist and have to fight every day just for my existence? So of course, many men would cash out on being strong black fathers, being Juneteenth type brothers, being strong Afrocentric brothers, being Moorish brothers, being indigenous brothers. They would cash out early, right? And take their chips, right? And just say, hey, just let me get as much out of this white thing as possible if you want to go there, right? Let me be effeminate, because masculinity is toxic. They're teaching me at 2 years old to not be masculine, and then all of a sudden I become older and I don't do things that masculine brothers would do, and now we got a problem. How you doing? Is it TRVP souls? I'm not sure. Is it trap souls? TRVP souls? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So of course he would cash out on it, because being effeminate is considered to be something that's rewarded, and being masculine is something that is toxic. It loses points, and men play games, and we're very great at keeping score. And if I end up losing the game, if I've seen that people lose games because they try to, it's like in basketball. Basketball used to be something to where I was raised being 6'5.5", thought I was going to be taller than that. I actually stopped growing earlier than I thought. So I thought I was going to be somebody 7 foot at one point. Hey, give me the ball in the post, right? Hit you with a dream shake, something like that. Or if I want to be strong, put my shoulder in you, that's Shaq, come out, fade away, that's Jordan, right? Whatever it is, I learned certain things, but now it's not rewarded to play with your back to the basket that much. So why would you play with your back to the basket if everything's about 3-pointers and crossing you up and dunking on you, and that's all there is? It's not even any mid-range game. Some of you get that, some of you don't. But long story short, you change the game up because you don't get rewarded for it. Why would you play in a way that you don't get rewarded for? So same thing, but think about those 7 rules, right? If we had an environment that just said, let's have those 7 rules, right? If you had an environment, right, that just had those 7 rules, Chile or Chile or Aquaaba, Etese, Habari, Jambo, etc. Hello, everybody, right? Um, hey, oil, good, our praises to the Most High. So, if we had those 7 things in order, let's think about that order again. If age 0 to 3 is the first things first, you're supposed to train a male that he's a boy. We're not rewarded for just being boys. You know, I've had conversations with ladies who be telling me, you know, when a boy finishes peeing, he's supposed to wipe his slit just like a woman will wipe hers. And I'm like, you don't do that with boys. You know, like and arguing with these boys' fathers or with their husbands, etc. Like arguing. I'm like, that boys don't, boys don't do that, right? Like don't do that to him. He's a boy. But because they're thinking about what? Being this is what I do. That's that's not what he does. Um, you know, hey, you go to school, make sure that you don't get them shoes dirty because you be paying for Jordans and stuff, paying $50 something for a 2-year-old boy, 3-year-old boy, 4-year-old boy that has some Jordans and things like that, when you could have just bought him 5 different shoes that look great the way that they are, right? But he can't get his shoes dirty. And what do boys love to do? We love to be dirty. Why do you think that there's not that many boy farmers now? Because you don't let them get their hands dirty when they're young. Let them get their hands dirty. Let them be out there. Boys get into some ugly, disgusting, nasty stuff. Let them do it, right? Boys can't get sick anymore. When it used to be that the first thing a boy loved to do was get in the worst stuff. You know, like that's what we do. Reward him for being a boy. Man, I can't take it. My girl, she cool and calm, but I can't get him to calm down. Yeah, he's not gonna be calm. He's not gonna be calm. He doesn't have all the faculties yet, right? But train him how to be a boy, right? Next thing that's up is after that. So the first thing, train him how to be the boy. Next thing up, wean him from his mother. You know what that means? That means that ages 3 to 6, not only should he be done, he's starting to be done if he's not already with breastfeeding and all that, which women can actually breastfeed longer than what we kind of do in society today. But nevertheless, you're kind of getting done with that. But also, he's getting to a place to where you're getting him away from being around his mom all the time, because Solomon, you're gonna see him on a lot more stuff. I told y'all he turned 7. I'm giving him a little break when he starts, but probably on Monday you'll see him on a lot more stuff. You'll see him doing, if you've paid attention to some of the stuff on Patreon. I know it hasn't been as much recently, but he's been popping up more in there, and the reason why is because he's going to do what dad does. So he's got to be weaned from mama. That means that there's got to be a group of age to where, guess what? Even though mama loves you, you're still gonna be around mama, and you'll always be a mama's boy to a certain extent. You can't be spoiled by mama no more. You can't be spoiled by mama no more. And a lot of women complain, oh man, he's always around his mama, this and that or whatever. You know why? He's always around his mama? Because you gotta wean him from you. You said you were a tomboy, but all women female. You gotta get dirty. Bath, we stay dirty. Hey, yeah, like I said, there's what is it? Exceptions to every rule, right? But I'm just saying, like, overall, right? These are things that we would have made sure that you were taught. We would have made sure that things that were done. If we had our own society, we became scattered, and we've gotten so used to being scattered that we never want to come back. We've gotten so used to being excited to tell everybody about how we're cursed that we don't want to live in Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14 anymore. But mama, one of the reasons you need a father's heart, or you need somebody with a father's heart around your child, is because father gonna start saying, hey, that's too much of that. Hey, you spoiling them, blah blah. But he's also saying that because in his mind, when that boy turned 7, that's my apprentice. That's why Yashua was a carpenter, because Joseph was a carpenter, right? Whatever daddy does, at least one of them boys got to do what daddy does, right? Men call themselves pretty sure. Matter of fact, one of the biggest things that's beyond me, and look, I'm not trying to tell anybody that means is they're automatically gay or this or that or whatever. And even if you are, I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. But one of the things that we see a lot of people dealing with, hey, how you doing again, Minister Tamara? Thanks for being back on. And once again, happy Born Day to you. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Happy Father's Day to everybody. So once again, what was I saying? I lost track. Oh yeah, one of the things that's really bothersome is that you see all these brothers out here, a lot of brothers out here start paying attention to these videos. Almost all these brothers, and it's really more so because they're trying to make sure that they show support and they get likes and clicks and all that. But look at how many of these brothers making sure that they out here with nail polish on. That was not a thing not too long ago. Look at how many brothers gonna make sure that they're wearing neon colors and stuff like that. That was not a thing not too long ago. It wasn't. It wasn't. And it doesn't make you a bad person. But hear what I'm saying. It means that, what was fine as a male has gone away from being fine. Like, just keeping it real. If you were a little boy in the 90s, in the 80s, right? That's when I grew up, 80s, 90s. You a little boy, right? And you outright just walking around in all pink, something was wrong with you. I'm not saying that should have been the case, but even to this day, right? There's certain colors that I don't allow my son to wear because my father would have never allowed me to wear, right? Even if I was wearing like pinkish shirts or whatever, they had to be like salmon. They couldn't be straight up pink. They definitely couldn't be neon and any of this stuff. Now you go to these churches and bruh, like Pastor so and so, what does he wear? Real talk. Like, why is his stuff so tight that he got male version of camel toe out this piece? What they used to call it, it's hard to be discussing. What they used to call it, moose knuckle or something like that. Like, why am I seeing this man's print? I came here to get a word, and I can't even look up at the stage because every time I look up, I feel like I'm doing something that's against Yah's word. You know what I'm saying? And then they did it, if we want to keep it 100, because these same boys was looking at other boys. Real talk, right? Having these different things going on. I'm sorry, I got to stretch out. So, but yeah, these are things that would have been unacceptable and not even imaginable at one point. We would have looked at this as like, brothers gonna be wearing dresses. I remember Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She would have told you like in the 50s and the 60s, maybe even the 70s, brothers were saying, boys, guys are gonna be wearing dresses soon one day. And people were like, oh no, that's crazy. That'll never happen. And guess what happened? Young Thug, who just got locked up on RICO charges in Georgia, right? I don't know if he's had his trial. He ain't had his trial yet, but he got locked up. I don't think he got out, and he's probably going to end up serving those charges and serving, probably a life sentence, if not longer. Maybe though, he's got money, he might get shorter. If he's willing to snitch, but if he's not willing to snitch, and he's going to try to be everything that Tekashi 6ix9ine wasn't, then he gonna serve a long, long time. And that same dude that's out here trying to say he's a thug because he's killing people, which is not what husbands and fathers and men do anyway, unless it's a protection of their family. This same guy who's doing all that, he's out here wearing dresses and was out here kissing Birdman on the mouth, just like Lil Wayne was kissing Birdman on the mouth. And all these sisters could get with Lil Wayne. They'll say he's a great lover and stuff. It's like that man kisses man. That used to be something that wasn't there. But when you have it to where fathers aren't around and you have it to where boys aren't weaned from their mothers, that they don't get a little bit of separation, hey, there's things that happen that aren't surprising. I'm not saying there aren't any mothers that don't tell their children, the boys, to stop doing that. But I'm telling you, like, there's certain things as a man, right, that my son, if he touches, right, he's not supposed to anyways, because my wife, like many sisters, they don't mess around with their makeup and they get expensive makeup, right? But my son better not ever touch his mom's makeup bag, let alone think he gonna take something out of it and then open it up. If some people will be like, oh, well, he's just expressing. No, he gonna get the whooping of his life because he's gonna remember that. There are certain things that I do not because the Most High demands it, even though I believe that the Most High should get his due. There are certain things that I don't do just because I I love the Most High, or that I'm always obedient. There's certain things that I do because my father beat the brakes off of him, right? There's certain times and I'm like, maybe I should steal. Like, I've had in my mind sometimes, like, I could just walk out the store with this and nobody would see this, especially when I was at my lowest of lows financially and I had to take care of my family, or sometimes just trying to survive on my own in the streets. And I'm like, you know what? I could just easily walk out the store with this and nobody would see it. And I would remember my father putting his hand, it felt like Richard Pryor said, like felt like he put his hand inside of my chest. And I would remember his whooping and be like, you know what? Yeah, it's probably not worth it. All right, Deacon, you have a great day, right? I said to myself, yeah, it's probably not worth it, you know, because I still, even though, you know, my father is elderly now, I still have it in my mind that my father could, at any time he wanted, just punch me in my chest, right? Before our father of fathers, whom I love extremely, right? I think my life shows it, and I hope to continue to show it even greater, in greater ways. I remember my father's hands upon my skin, laying hands on me without prayers. And I will remember that and say, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't touch that today. Maybe I shouldn't yell like this today. Maybe I shouldn't disrespect my wife like that, even if I feel like I've been disrespected, because I remember what it was to disrespect his wife, and he would put his hands on me. And some people would say, oh, that's terrible, but that's the heart of a father, right? So we would make sure we uplifted being boys. Yeah, his hand was upon my skin, trying to be poetic with it, right? Because reality is we know what was happening, right? And he didn't have to do the switch. I got switches from other people. He didn't need to switch. Matter of fact, he had the belt. He just, or when I got, because I was, you know, I'm taller than him. So sometimes he had to, you know, I thought I was going to fight him. And so he had to fight me. And I realized you don't disrespect somebody that's older. I love the story. This isn't my personal story, it's Dave Chappelle's story, but I love the story when Dave Chappelle talks about how he was trying to entertain this Dominican girl coming down. He talked about it, I forget, in one of his more recent, um, I think he has a lot of them when he sits down, but the one where he's sitting down with a very small crowd on Netflix, I believe it might still be on Netflix, I don't know. And he's talking about how he wants to make sure that he takes her out. And so he's only got like $60 left for the weekend, which probably is like, you know, 100 and something now because it was a long time ago. So they probably could have done a lot more back in the day with it. But 60 in New York is still 60 in New York. It ain't nothing. And so he's trying to see if he can double up on it. He goes and plays a game. He watches the game the whole time. He sees that there's this card that's messed up. He says, okay, cool. I know, you know, it's basically like 3-card Monty type thing, at least the way he explained it. He says, that's the card. And then he gets tricked or whatever. He gets his money taken. He watches him for the rest of the day. And he realizes that all the guys that are there are his friends and stuff, and they're cheating people out of money. So somebody comes up to put their money down, and he says, you know, no, don't do it, right? And the guy, who was like, he says is a huge guy, gets up and gets ready and picks him up in the air, is getting ready to beat him up. And he says that the guy must have been a father or something like that, because he like softened. When he looked him in the eye, he could tell that Dave was afraid that he was about to die. And he said, young man, this is father's heart. Even in stealing from people, father's heart shows up. He said, young man, never come between a man and his meal. Right? He said that was a lesson that he never forgot. Right? Even in that, there's certain things that you're not going to learn without being around a father's heart. Right? So first things first, we got to have an environment where you celebrate being a boy. After that, you got to have an environment where you celebrate. You know, it's celebrated. It's rewarded. Is it rewarded? Going away from mama. Mama will hate dating mama's boys, but will not separate boys from mama. You hear what I'm saying? Mama will hate. Mama will say, I can't stand being around these mama's boys, but then she will not separate from her boy. Well, then if you're creating the same situation, some of you would call it generational curse, right? If you want to use those terms and stuff and you want to talk about the Bible and all that, then read your Bible, it'll bless you. You have 7 different ways. So the boy, first of all, celebrate he's a boy. Secondly, give him a reward in his environment that says, oh, okay, you're doing things as a male, you're doing things that are strong for your community, you're doing things to teach others. Why not have a reward for that? I'm not here to speak against anybody else. I'm just saying, if you say what you believe in, then you got to set an environment to where that's acceptable. After you set that environment, next thing up is you become your father's apprentice. Do we have anything in our society that sets it up to where we say these little black boys, these Morenos, these Cubanos, these Haitians, these Sweet people, these Puerto Ricanos, these Tainos, these Cherokee, these whatever you are, right? Do we have something set up in our societies that says that, hey, if you do what daddy does, right, that's amazing, right? And that dad gets rewarded for making sure that you become his child or his responsibility ultimately. You said when daddy got up, grandma or I would get his breakfast, dinner, or lunch. He was the man of his house. Yeah. Like, is there a reward for that? Even think about that, right? It used to be a big deal. My father worked 2.5 jobs. So if he was actually home to eat with us, it was extremely huge deal. And we always ate as a family. We ate at the table. I loved eating at the table, right? I was talking about that a little bit yesterday, how powerful eating at the table can be. But I loved eating at the table, especially when I ate at the table with my father. Like he was always busy. So when he came home, everything was like, wow, daddy's home. And he got to feel that. You know why? Mama made us do that? Because mama recognized that daddy was never home. So when he gets a chance to be there, right, I'm gonna make sure that this is lit, as the young folk would say, right? Is lit. Like, it's gonna be off the chain. We're gonna treat you with respect, right? We're gonna make sure that your position holds no cap. Like, if we say that you're supposed to get all this, that's what you get. So, all the stuff was there, the big piece of chicken, the first person to get served, the person who was going to lead us in prayer. We didn't move. We didn't touch our stuff until he touched the stuff. Even if we wanted to, we didn't get to do it. And shalom to everybody. Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth. We appreciate everybody for being on. Happy born day again to Minister Tamara. Happy born day again, even though it's one day past. Happy born day again to young Master Solomon. Appreciate you. There were certain things that were set up, right? There were certain things that were set up. Thank you, Amafan. Is that Amafan? Oh, Amalan, excuse me. I got the sun in my eyes, so forgive me. But yeah, it was a reward. Being a father was rewarded. Being a father was rewarded. You hear that? Being a father was rewarded. Is it still rewarded the same? Once again, number 1 holiday, Christmas. Number 2 holiday, Mother's Day. Number 20 holiday, Father's Day. Number 13 holiday, Arbor Day. I still don't really know what that is. But do you think that your fathers feel great when they look out and there's Halloween is number 6? That means demons and blood come before being a father. Demons and blood come before being a father. It's acceptable to make sure that you dress up like Freddy Krueger. It's more acceptable that you would dress up like Freddy Krueger than it is that you would dress up like your father. And thank you for the happy born day wishes. I gave him most of them yesterday, but I'll try to make sure I go through them again. He was very excited about it. He had a great day. He was over here all day, and he's going to go somewhere else today and really get to, here's the calm waters. He gets to go to, he likes the rough waters more than the calm waters. When you get older, you like the calm waters more than you like the rough waters. He gets to go to the rough waters today and swim out there. So we're very excited about that for him, right? Well, it's because the world is ranking it. Very true, right? But once again, if you're in the world all the time and you have very little time that you're not of it, right? Then where's the environment? See, this is the key. The reason why, like, can I tell you something? I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be what I thought, whatever this means, now it means something different, but I wanted to be a real man. You know why? Because I was raised by one. And in my thought process, you imagine them playing, yeah. In my thought process, and my my everyday, I wanted to be pleasing, like still today, I want to be pleasing to my father. I want my grandfathers to be able to be pleased. Like there's things that I do that Alfred did, and there's things that I do that William did. My grandfather. There's things that my great grandfathers. I never met them, at least as far as I remember, but I heard things about them. I want to do those things. There's things that I've heard about Maya's grandfathers and great grandfathers. Things that I want to emulate. You know, there's things my spiritual father does that I want to emulate and imitate and make sure that he's proud of me or whatever. Right? Like there's so much stuff I want to be. I want to be this stuff because I became an apprentice, right? When I went through one of the worst experiences I went through in my life, and ended up serving jail time that I never deserved, even though I never even went to trial. Had to still wait 8 months right to the speedy trial before I could finally just walk the streets and be innocent, which I was innocent in the first place. Um, in the midst of all that, it was he's since passed for quite a few years now, but it was a Liberian pastor who came. He was one of my teachers. He was a professor at the school that I was helping out, and as I helped him out behind the scenes, with things having to do with setting up the classes virtually, they allowed me to go to school for free, and he um, saw me coming out, didn't have clothes anymore, had clothes that I was sleeping in when they came. So I had clothes that were ripped up and stuff because I was sleeping in them. I didn't really have pajamas. So basically, like, I had to spend a whole night outside, my first night out by myself. And it was when Occupy DC was going on. Occupy, DC, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Portland, Occupy this, that, all that stuff was going on. When they were fighting the 1% of 1% of 1% or whatever. And so I went to one of those things, and even the people that were out there, including even the homeless people, everybody's looking down on me because I was this guy, dirty, ripped up clothes, and somewhat smelled, if I be honest. Didn't have anywhere to go, and this is before the hair, right? So this was somewhat had a fresh cut, somewhat, but was just kind of out there, and basically there were a group of people, but he was somebody who I remember who took me aside. He took me to probably K&G. That's what our people do. I don't think it was Men's Warehouse. We probably went to K&G. He got me two suits, immaculate suits. Not just the suits, but got me the shirt, the ties. So I could have a couple things to be able to switch in and out of or whatever. And he taught me. He brought me into his house. They argued over what tribe they thought I would have came from, even though I wasn't even Liberian. But they were, because Liberia. Remember, part of the reason it's even called Liberia is because Monroe, the capital of it is actually Monrovia, but Monroe, and then later on Lincoln and Douglas would send people over to kind of test it out and see, can these slaves become free. So I went, and he lived with his. He was actually somebody who didn't have his own house, but he was living. He was going back and forth between Liberia. So I never got a chance to go to Liberia with him. I wish I had, because he would have known the safe spots to go and stuff. That he was supposed to be the spiritual advisor for the president at the time, and but he was always taking care of me. Made sure I had other services I had to go to and stuff and play at and preach at, but he would make sure that I got to play and preach at his services. And he checked on me. He called me up. He did all types of stuff, man. And we just kind of lost contact, and I didn't realize, until it was too late. He was sick. He passed away. I knew he had something going on because his eyes started to kind of, how people's eyes sometimes with certain sicknesses, they start to spread out. But I didn't know how sick he really was. But, he was somebody who really invested in me and really supported me at one of the, I'd say probably the worst point in my life. I've been through worse, but I've never been that unsupported before. And where it kind of was like, it's you or death every day. Like, you got to find a way to just make it, this close to trying to figure out how to eat out of trash cans. Never did, but I was kind of envious sometimes. Like, that's how I don't know if you ever been in a situation so bad where you're kind of envious of somebody else. and they doing real bad, like I was kind of envious of the brother and the sister that could detach and just be like, yo, I'm gonna pick up the cigarette. It took me a really long time, even when I was really hooked on cigarettes, it took me a really long time to be able to ever think like I'll just grab a cigarette out of an ashtray or something, right? Um, I never once, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I never once, um, not panhandled. I panhandled, and that was for extreme situations for others and not for myself. But I was trying to think. Yeah, never once, like I was saying earlier, ate out of a trash can. But I used to be envious because I'd be like, man, these people, they can just eat out of that and be okay. Like I wish I could, do that, right? But at that time when I was like in that bad a situation, it was a father's heart, and he and others even helped me to be able to get. And this bishop, who was a woman, the elderly woman, she allowed me to live in her home, and I had a room, and that's kind of where my restart of my whole life happened. But it was his heart, and I remember him. Um, because I need to get through this, I don't even know if I could really mention more about him. Uh, but his heart, people like him. I've talked in the past about my father and others, but he's somebody who I talk about sometimes, but he's yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of, is what I'm saying. I'm saying that I was in a situation where I was learning, like I was ashamed of being homeless. But hey, if you can't afford to live, you can't afford to live. You can't get a job, you can't get a job. But there was a time where somebody taught me those things, right? So I'm just saying I learned through those things. And now, as you guys can see, I don't, some people say that, oh, you look homeless because you let your hair just grow and you don't make sure that you do this and you don't make sure you get rid of split ends. Now I don't care as much about those things, but I'm thankful for those things that happened. But it was the heart of a father. And of course, our father, who was above all fathers, he was important to that, right? So we gotta find a way to lift up boys. We got to find a way to make sure that we, um, you know, um, get them to not be mama's boys and lift them up. You know, yeah, I don't feel I look homeless, but people come on here, Minister Sonia. I appreciate you. You know what I mean. I know you never have ever, even once, said that. Matter of fact, you've been extremely supportive in that, right? But I'm just saying, people go. But we got to find something that lifts boys up, and you got to find something that says it's okay to be weaned from mom, and then you got to find something that says it's okay. There's a reward for daddy and son being connected at the hip. You know. Um, then after that, is there a reward for a boy getting his education? Now, not someone else's education, but his education. Our definition of education is working definition, which is pretty close to the original, anyways. I reach inside you, I pull out what's inside you, I show you what I see, I put it back inside you, and then I say, okay, let's get it. Let's figure out how we reach what it is that we see. Yeah, rites of passage, all that stuff. Yeah. So now when we do those things, we're able to see, okay, um, this is who we are, this is where we are, and things like that. But we don't get recognized. Think about an IQ test. An IQ test is not based off of your society. IQ test is intelligence quotients, and it's not based off of your people's intelligence. It's based off of somebody else's. You said when you were a child, you had to go to school with holes in your pants. It was a sad time. Yeah, I remember having shoes to talk to everybody, or you had holes in the bottom of your feet, and hope that you didn't step in a puddle or something like that day, or else you just have wet socks for the rest of the day, and people could then start hearing your what you were walking through, and everybody was trying to figure out why you making those sounds. And the reality is because like you still you're drowning, your feet still drowning in the water. Um, yeah, some of that stuff happens for sure. But the education piece, like our children are not educated by us. There's no reward for it. There's reward if your child says, um, Baba Kacha, right? If your child says, "I'm going to Harvard," we go, "Oh wow, Harvard." If your child says, "I'm going to Howard," which by the way is just blackface on white curriculum, wow, you're going to Howard. If your child tells somebody, "Oh yeah, I go to such and such magnet school," you go, "Wow, that's amazing," right? If you say to your child, or if your child says, "I get homeschooled," people look at you strange, even though homeschool children do the best on these tests for colleges. So ultimately, they have a better reward, even if they go to college. And ultimately, a lot of them open up businesses of their own. But a lot of people, you should never understood. People thought you had money, even you had water from neighbors' water hose. Yeah. So yeah, I get the stories, but like that's something else in manhood. Like we don't in developing fathers, we don't even think that it's appropriate to lift up our own fathers and teach them ourselves. Of course, schools don't teach your fathers. The mistake was thinking that you should have ever had somebody else teaching your child in the first place. That was the mistake. Like real talk. The mistake was having you think that other people should be teaching your children in the first place. You know, I want you to recognize and to realize that those of you who've had your children listening in, like I'm so thankful and grateful, not because I feel like I'm all that. I'm thankful and grateful because what you're doing is you're showing an interest in what your child is, who your child is, and what your child shall become. That child is learning something through their own lens, through their own prism, through their own culture. They don't have to go through intelligence. One of the worst things that we do, this happens all the time with preachers. One of the worst things we do with preachers is we say, we're going to send you to somebody else's school. We're going to send you to somebody else's society. We're going to send you to somebody else's church. They're going to catechize you, which ain't even a biblical term, but they're going to catechize you, or they're going to give you this degree. And then we expect you to come back and to be able to teach what we teach. The problem is, though, is that we never trained you what we believe in. So now sometimes they don't even come back. A lot of them go to school, and all you did was just go to a school where they didn't even teach you about the Bible. They taught you about so much other stuff that you said, well, if that's a lot of preachers go to schools and then they say they don't want to be preachers anymore. They went called to preach, and now they don't even believe in the Most High, or they doubt that He exists. You know, you said another educated person should always teach your children, but schooling these days is questionable. Well, yeah, and why not you be the educated person? Why not set up your own, have a community and a society? How you doing? Happy Father's Day, Mr. Tracy. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Happy Juneteenth, right? Why not set it up where you can teach your own children? Why not have a society that rewards that, right? All this stuff, like I want you to think about this. Do you think that parents would be okay with teaching their children if society said we'll give each parent that homeschools their children a stipend? We'll get rid of the public school system, and we'll make sure we're still going to make sure we have something in place that says that people can check to see whether your children are being schooled correctly or not. But we'll give you, right? We can, even if people who want to do colleges, if you want to keep them around, whatever, right? We'll keep private schools, all that, but we'll get rid of the public schools, and we'll make it a point to say, children, your parents are ultimately responsible for making sure you get your training. We'll give them a stipend, so if they need to work a little less or do something like that, they can teach their children. Yeah, right. Which means that parents, we need you to be educated some as well. So if there's educators or parents that are willing to go, hey, if parents are willing to pay, or if society's willing to pay, or if you guys are willing to do some kind of tithe or something like that, or some kind of offering, and we'll make sure that there are people that can go around making sure parents have what they need, and then children have what they need. And so parents being responsible doesn't mean you need to teach them everything. There's some things like on math, I don't know. So guess what? I find a mathematician, and my child learns those things. Exactly. You could talk about making buildings, in school buildings into places for homeless. You could have, if people are going to pay taxes for this, and you're going to force them to pay taxes, at least until they realize they don't have to, then heck, why not have the taxes that you're paying for the school stuff? Why not have the taxes come right back into your pocket, at least in the form of a stipend? These are things that if you really wanted to commit to change, you could. You said majority of parents do not have the ability to teach their children. Anything? I mean, they're supposed to teach your children etiquette. And once again, why not make sure the parents get trained? See, here's the deal. A poor parent has a poor mind. A poor mind, whether your child goes to school or not, is going to cause a poor environment. That poor environment is going to cause the child to go to a poor school. That poor school is going to train your child to have a poor mind, and have a poor spirit, and have a poor mentality, and have poor environment. So allow the next child to go through the same thing. At some point, you got to say that the problem is not the school more so than it is the environment that the child comes out of. School talk right now is more concerned about if your child will get shot than if your child gets educated. And education system says your child doesn't even need to be a male or a female. You said etiquette is free to teach. You know, there used to be people that would pay for etiquette. Maybe we should look at people who have etiquette. There's a lot of people who learn a lot of math and science and grow up with poor etiquette and end up in prison. Maybe if we stop saying that strangers were better at teaching our children, or maybe if we stopped accepting that environment. You know, the school environment that we know of today is something that's still new, relatively new in the story of mankind. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers. I'm just trying to say that maybe if we stop saying that school, somebody else teaching your child was more vital to your child than a parent teaching the child, maybe we would focus more on parenting. Right. And if school shootings have become so habitual that all parents are afraid of them, then maybe something's wrong with the school system, anyways. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not disagreeing fully. I'm just saying, sure. Like, for example, my wife and I are pretty much responsible for almost everything my son learns, from music to physical education to language to um, to mathematics, to everything, right? But there's certain things that I might not know, or there might be things that just we don't have time to do. So guess what? From time to time, we hire somebody, or from time to time, we find somebody else who homeschools, and we say, "Hey, can he sit in some of your stuff?" Sure, right? So I have no problem with that, right? And when you say most parents are not capable of teaching, I don't know. And if that's the case, then maybe we need to make sure that parents get taught too, because you're never too old to learn. And if you can't teach your child 1 plus 1, I think that maybe we should figure that out. Something wrong with that. If you can't teach your child, a language that you should have known as a child, then something wrong with that. We should help you. Yeah, shocked they don't even teach handwriting and stuff anymore. You don't need to. You got computers. But why shouldn't your child know how to write correctly? Why shouldn't your child know how to read cursive? A lot of children don't even know how to read cursive. They're going to school. A lot of children don't have trades anymore. I wish I could go back to school because they taught trades. I wish I had just focused on shop. If I had focused on shop and done something like that, I probably could have had business long, long time ago, and had the business now supporting what we're doing now. You know, they used to teach you how to at least cook, how to take care of a baby, how to make sure that you sewed. They don't even do that anymore. So at some point, we got to start thinking to ourselves. And once again, remember where school even started. Thomas Jefferson told you why they made school. He said, we created elementary school, and we realized that, first of all, a lot of people won't even go to school, so he wasn't even worried about them. Elementary school would make sure that you had an elementary type of learning, so that you could do elementary things and basically barely get paid. He said it was all control. Next group up, you have what we now call, middle school in there, but it was really secondary school. Secondary school, a whole bunch of people weren't going to go to that. But those who did, they have a little higher standard, and they'd be able to go ahead and be over everybody else. But then you really have, this is what the bachelors, which were really going to be what? Young white men, who could, for the most part, young white men who could afford to have their parents pay to make sure they get their 4-year degree. Once they finish going through there, they'd be able to be if somebody wanted to go past that, right, then you could have a master's degree, that a master's teacher. So you could be great enough to be able to teach. Everybody else had to continue the system to keep certain people in power. And then lastly, you had a doctorate degree. A doctorate degree is what? If you're a doctor, if you doctor something, it means you get to make something up. And what do? You make something up to keep the same people in power. So you have the doctors who make things up, to write things out, to make sure that the people who are masters or teachers will make sure they teach it. To who the people who are bachelors, who are the single white males who are young, who are going to be over who? The people that are secondary in society, to be over who? The people that only know things that are elementary, and ultimately over who? The people that nobody cares about anyways, who are the destitute. Right? So those are the things that we're talking about, right? So then after that, so after you've focused on society and making sure, you got to find a way to make sure you award him for being a boy, award him for coming away from mama somewhere, have a reward for him and his father for coming together and being a father-son team, and the father teaching his son, therefore having greater education through his father and his mother and his father-son team, really more so even than that at that point in life. Then after that, you teach him what it is to be an adult male. You teach him what it is to be a man. Is there a reward, once again, for being a man? It used to be something that we looked to. He's a man's man. Now, oh, there you go with the patriarchal society trying to talk down to people with that toxic behavior, trying to show heteronormative behavior. I don't even know if they teach you how to type in school still, because I know a lot of people that do this that are in high school. For us, we had to learn in elementary school when they first started coming out with computers. But I'll admit I went to a pretty great elementary school in comparison to many in the country at the time. But you know, we don't even think. Once again, if you don't think that it's okay to teach a boy to say it's all right to be a boy, then why is it okay and acceptable to teach him what it is to be a man? Well, degrees, once again, never really meant anything. Even degree is Masonic, right? To have a degree of something, the third degree and all this stuff, like to have a degree of learning just means that you have a little bit of learning, right? I don't even think people even comprehend that, because we don't have a father's heart, we don't have our father's heart, and we don't have our culture's heart, right? For somebody who says, I got a degree of learning, that just means you know a little bit of something. Do you want to be holistic or you want a degree? I mean, we give out degrees and everything, but question, like, do you want to be holistic or you just want a degree? I can give you a degree of anything. I can give you a degree of cake. You might want more than the degree I give you, though. You know? But a lot of us are into degrees. How many degrees do you have? That just means you know a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. And then depending on who gave you the degree, it might not mean that much to me. Like, I'm being honest with you, right? No cap, no cap, but also no shade, but no hurt meant or anything. No shade, but no cap, no lies here. Like, if you go to the University of Harvard and you're gonna tell me that you got a degree in Black history, I don't even know if they do that. A lot of places, you know, Black history is just an elective. But let's say they allow you to do that. They probably do. Who knows? Let's say you went to Harvard and you got a degree in Black history. What does that mean to me? You said PhD people have the ability to shape their environments? Sure, because they get to doctor things. But watch this. Watch this. It comes through your culture anyways. Oh, that's a cool bird. I don't know what that is. If it gets closer, I'm going to share it with y'all. I don't know if y'all can even see it over there. I keep forgetting what the thing is. I only see it when I'm in this area. But anyways. But you know, like, okay, if somebody's a doctor, for example, like even when we're talking about a doctor, like, you know, like a doctor, in order to be a medical doctor, you don't have to go to school that long. You just got to pass a test. You pass the bar. Right? You don't even have to pass the test. You pass the bar. You know? And how many doctors out here are telling people that they're going to cure cancer by making sure that they fry your cells? When depending on type of cancer, first and foremost, I need to make sure you get oxygen. I need to make sure that you have water. I need to make sure that you are that I'm seeing exactly where the cancer is, so I know where to funnel the stuff that you're going to eat to, and I can start giving you things that even besides just giving you oxygen is going to cause your blood to be clean, right? And make sure that you have things at a high pH level, and then I'm going to make sure that you go do things that are fun. But a doctor says that you can't cure things without making sure that at least you can't cure cancer without burning yourself. Why do you have to burn yourself? Why do you have to have radioactive stuff? I know there's even a sister who's come out and said, I got some new thing to where it's so small and they can just focus on only burning that one area, not your whole body. But why do they have to burn your body? Why are people getting I have family members, man. It's messed with me because they know that we know how to help them and stuff, but they get scared because the doctor says you need to cut off, you know, what is it, a mastectomy, something like that? Is that the one where you lop off the breast? And I'm like, and I got, you know, family members missing breasts. I'm like, why? Why? Like we know how to make this work. We've done this before. Why are you doing that? You know, but we're just in a system where it's just like whatever. So if we don't, and once again, like look at a lot of these people that have PhDs. You've had people with master's degrees and who've been president. You have people with PhDs who have told the presidents what to do. We're still dealing with cynicism, racism, skepticism, classism, chauvinism, male chauvinism, misogyny, misandry, Me Too movement, Democrats, Republicans, communists, Marxists, uh, people who are independent, which you're still voting, so you're not independent of the system. People don't even know, hey, make sure that you get your DS11 form done. These are a lot of people with PhDs who would argue against these things. And can I say something else? There's a lot of people that have PhDs, who have doctorates, who are supposed to be, what do you call them? Sorry. You step out the system long enough, you start forgetting these titles. Um, I believe it starts with a P. Was it? Somebody help me. Professor. Professor. Um, you got professors out here that get paid less than minimum wage and need help from the government and aren't getting enough help and are out here dying. Out here dying. I'm not saying that everybody who has a PhD is of no value, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't have PhDs that aren't trying to do things that are of value to society as well, right? But you're not going to tell me just because somebody has a doctorate or PhD or whatever you want to call it, because you call them Doctor So and So or MD or DDS or whatever behind their name. There's a lot of preachers that are doctor, that are Reverend Dr. So and so, or Pastor Dr. So and so, or whomever, Bishop Dr. So and so, Apostle Dr. So and so, or Dr. Apostle. Some people put the doctor before the biblical term that they like, whatever. There's a lot of people out here that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. All that stuff means is a degree of learning. Like nobody wants to talk about it. It's Masonic. It's a degree of learning. They gave it to you in the third degree. They read you the third degree. There's degrees of learning. There's degrees of this. There's 33 degrees. You only got a piece. Why not be more holistic? I don't have all the answers myself, but I'm saying I don't focus on a degree. Some people, they need to do that. Maybe that's how they get where they are. But I'm telling you, there's a lot. That's how you have a lot of Asian and African community and Caribbean community that stepped up a lot. Now you see them in places as far as being your doctors because they study really hard for a year and then they go to the Caribbean and stuff. There's places that actually help them to study and stuff. And then they go and they come over to the United States of America. They pass the test. As soon as they pass the test, then they start doing what they need to do for a year, being around somebody else. And once that doctor said they know enough, then they say, okay, cool. We saved up enough money. We're going to go work somewhere. And then we're going to make sure we open our own practice. You said you cannot get a doctorate unless you shape your field. No, you can't get a doctorate unless you, and I'm not saying, I guess you say shape your field. Okay. You're saying that you can't get a doctorate unless, for the most part, depends on what you're getting a doctorate in. But for the most part, let's be honest, to get a doctorate, you have to write a paper. Can you give a dissertation? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, we're not talking about, like, people are getting PhDs because they went out and made sure that homeless people are eating. Some people might, but let's not act like that's most of the PhDs, right? Right? Or some people might get PhDs because they actually made sure that they started telling people what the Bible actually says. But let's be honest. I know a lot of cats in this that do what I do that have PhDs. Matter of fact, believe it or not, I've taught a lot of the people who have PhDs. Right? Believe it or not. And in some way, shape, or form, there's a lot of people in specific places, especially like if you're talking about Howard Divinity, if you're talking about Harvard Divinity a little bit, if you're talking about a lot of East Coast stuff, at least Northeast East Coast stuff. I promise you, even a lot of pastors that are out here just doing regular services Sunday to Sunday. I promise you, there's a lot of cats that I'm talking to behind the scenes. A lot of cats in Baltimore, a lot of cats in Washington D.C. I'm not as prevalent in those places anymore. I promise you, or my family, or a lot of different people have taught a lot of different people as far as that. Right, my uncle, one of the greatest preachers of all time, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of y'all probably never even Would have heard of him. I told you his name. Regardless, like great teacher, great man. I promise you, a lot of them are not shaping anything. They're just making sure that they hit certain things. They write a paper and get a doctorate, right? Either way, though, I'm not here to say that everybody here that got a PhD is trash, right? But I'm not going to act like anybody who got a PhD has shaped society. And if they have, then bless them, because may Yah continue to bless them. And if this is shaping society, I hope we find a new way to shape it. I hope it's I hope I'm just be honest with you. Like if shape society, because I used to be in that lane and I used to have a haircut and a 3-piece suit and a 6-figure lifestyle and do all that stuff. And I promise you, like, I'd rather do this all day, every day, and allow my life to take me to where I can do this whenever you know, I won't say whenever I feel like, whenever I'm led to and whenever the Most High allows me to, and not even have to make that much money to do so, because the Most High gave me a wife who was able to take a little bit of vision that I had and use her vision and our missions and everything, and allow us to be in a position to where we're no longer in the same place or in the same space. I promise you, like, I'd rather be in a position to where I can do this while shaping people's lives. And when I go different places, I can actually look people in the eye and help people all over the world and put food in their mouths and put clothes on people's backs, and really be a blessing to people. If that's what their shaping of reality is, I'd rather do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather do this. I'd rather be in some of the tough times financially that people might not even think that I have. But my tough time is not what your tough time is. Because my tough time is, okay, like I got to have a couple hundred extra bucks or something like that, versus somebody who's trying to figure out how they're going to pay $1,500 a month in rent. If that's their shaping of reality, no offense, but I'll take something like this every day and try to teach my people to get to something like this every day. Um, I'll take that every day, right? That's I'll take that culture every day. No offense. Some people like different things, different strokes for different folks. But I know a lot of cats that got PhDs and still ain't paid off student loans, and it's been 20 years. I ain't never had a student loan. I've been to school. It's a blessing. Been to school, never had a student loan. Thank you, Minister Tammy. Yeah, right. Been to school, don't have no student loan. So, that's something that we did through Yah. My wife actually had a student loan. I didn't have one. So that's something that comes through Yah, and she's able to pay it off. She's debt free in that area too. So there's a lot of cats make a lot more money than us, and their PhD has them trying to keep up with the Joneses. And once you get a PhD in certain things too, you can't come down in society. So you got to do certain things that other people shouldn't have. You shouldn't necessarily have to do, but you got to keep up stuff. So there's a lot. But I say, long story short, as far as even in that, as far as, once again, have something that allows them to be a man. Once again, education is more concerned about PhD, right? Even in the PhD conversation we just had and all that stuff we just talked about, how much of that, when we're talking about lift up the PhD, why does the PhD lift up the man, but the man can't, or the PhD lifts up the society, but the man doesn't lift up the society? And all that conversation we just had, right? Just and all that stuff that we just had, and all these things that we just talked about. PhDs, they shape society. Well, what about fathers? What about men shaping society? Does the PhD teach you how to be a man? You can have a PhD, still cheat on your wife. You can have a PhD, still never have a wife. You can have a PhD, never have a child. You can PhD and have 5 children that you never sow into. Thomas Jefferson probably had what you would make an equivalent to a PhD. He created the system that gives you the PhD. Thomas Jefferson was out here raping black women, saying that they were just black N-word, things, not even people, things that had no soul, had no conscience, had no Christian soul, were ugly, were smelly, were lazy, and were always trying to figure a way out of work, while having sex with them, having his half white children, half black children running around being his slaves. If that's the system we want to upkeep, keep it up. I'm just saying we need to have a reward for it. We need to set up something where we have a reward for it, right? If angelic discipline has stopped, sustenance, textiles, occupation, and purpose. If he's able to help somebody to be able to make sure that they get their stuff together virtually so that they can make sure their business is flowing correctly, If he's able to put out stuff musically that might help you and things like that. If you're into his style of music, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, whatever. Everybody has to each their own. But if he has that or whatever, why would we not set up a system that bare minimum says, hey, go talk to TJ, go talk to Angelic Discipline, find out what he's about, see if it matches with what you is. And as he sows his gift into you, you can sow finance into him. Right? Somebody who has a PhD, did they shape a society that allows it to happen? Because I'm not saying the PhD is bad. I'm not saying the doctorate is bad. I'm saying that why do we give more credence to the doctorate than we do to the father? The father's more important than the doctorate. The problem is that a lot of people don't have doctorates in fatherhood. After being a father, then comes being a husband. So we don't have anything that lifts up being a boy. We don't have anything that's lifting up being weaned from mama. We don't have anything lifting up making sure that you and your father are together. We don't have anything lifting up making sure that you get educated by your own people. We don't have anything that lifts up being a man. And therefore now we don't have anything that lifts up being a husband. Okay. Right. So he shaped Bermuda. Cool. Right. I'm just saying it, long story short, in this, what I'm talking about today, and happy Father's Day once again. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Born Day to Solomon. Happy Born Day to Minister Tamara. What I'm trying to say is, in all the stuff that's going on, we don't even care about the stuff. We're talking about shaping and shaping and shaping and shaping and shaping. Yeah, that's great. Right. Are we shaping husbands? Where are the husbands at? Has this society of learning, this Western society, this whole PhD thing, this whole intelligence quotient, IQ thing, this whole now new emotional quotient, EQ, whoever's, whatever they say your emotional state should be, all the stuff that's out here. Question, have they shaped a society that allows for no racism, that allows for spiritual equity, that allows for financial equity, that allows for you to be equitable, that allows for you to even understand that each decision you make has equity? Have we, and all this shaping and stuff, where the husbands at? Right? Where are the husbands at? In our society, where's the reward for being a husband? If black men ain't, where's the reward for being a black husband? All the stuff we talking about shaping. You see, like the issues that we're having are not PhD based. They're lack of husband based. I'm not saying I'm against the PhD once again. Like we're having a weird conversation here. Like it's kind of, and I'm not saying it's a straw man because there's obviously some value in what you're saying, but there's a little bit of gaslighting, even if not meant to. And what I mean by that is like we're like veering off. We're not even close to what we're like. We're talking about the lack of fathers on Father's Day, the lack of the importance of Father's Day. People plan out Mother's Day. People plan out Christmas. People plan out Halloween. People plan out Easter. People plan out Arbor's Day, right? People plan out George Washington's birthday. Father's Day is kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. There's a lack of fathers when there's no environment that says be a father. There's a lack of fathers when there's no environment that says, hey, if y'all decide to split it up, you better make sure that father's still involved in his life. There's a lack of fathers to where even men, like Pete Gabe, it used to be acceptable for men to be able to see boys out there that were acting up and for the men to walk up to him and say, hey, straighten yourself out. Now, if he does that, what happens? Mama gets to come on the scene and say, you better not talk to my son. Look, she has every right to, but I'm saying she had every right back then, but it was okay. It was okay to do so, right? That father, that person who has a father's heart that has a PhD, he would get more reward in society for having a PhD than he would for making sure that he tells a young man to pull his pants up. That's the problem. It's like when somebody says, man, you talk about LGBTQ plus and all this. Why don't you talk about LGBTQ? Why don't you recognize the non-cisgender role and this and that or whatever. Why don't you recognize that there's mothers out there that are being the masculine and what the child needs as being the masculine or whatever? You know what? And she could do that. And I'm not saying she couldn't tell him that he have good manners and this and that or whatever. But I promise you, like, if when me and my son go into the men's room and both of us are standing there getting ready to urinate, there's some things that we experience together that you don't experience to nobody else. That's why the Bible says things like, the enemy tries to destroy anything that pisseth against the wall, that stands up and urinates. To stand up and urinate is under suspicion. Why is it that women can't go into a men's bathroom and men can't go into a women's bathroom? Because we're not trying to kill off anything that standeth and pees. I told y'all before, my father didn't say, when I spoke against my mother, my father did say, like, you shouldn't talk to your mother like that. But first thing out of his mouth was not that. First thing out of his mouth was, don't ever talk to my wife like that again. You know why he was saying that? He was trying to get me used to the fact that, hey, son, if you not only is this your mother, and you better make sure, but you better recognize when you talk to another man, not just me, you might talk to the wrong one. And even though you might only be 14 and you think you're taller than this, another man, when you talk to his wife like that, he might just straight up hit you in the jaw. He might not talk to you at all because he doesn't take any disrespect to his wife. See, he taught me that as a husband. He didn't teach, that wasn't even a father's heart. That was a husband's heart. Before we even got to the father's heart, he loved me as a father enough to say, let me show you what a husband's about. A husband might beat the brakes off you right now if you ever disrespect my wife. He didn't say your mother. He said my wife. I comprehended who she was. I knew that was my mother, and I probably knew I should have done better, but I was feeling myself. But he was making it a point to say, if you ever, why? Because it was not just something that was in his house. He was trying to teach me that any man you go to and you do that to his wife, you will get punched in the jaw. You might even get worse done to you. So guess what? I say the same thing to my son, Solomon. If he talks to his mother, I say, don't ever talk to my wife like that again. He'll Will Smith, yeah, knock him out. Slap, Don't ever disrespect my father's wife. I don't disrespect my mother, not only because she's my mother, not only because the Most High gives me a command. Once again, I do so because my father made it a point to teach me and punch me in my chest and make it a point to show me that I will never disrespect his wife. When I dishonor her, I dishonor him. He taught me that. He didn't need a PhD for that. And it shaped me better than any PhD could. It shaped me better than any degree that he did. Right? Right? Interesting fact, I was never really afraid of being kicked out of my father's house. Even though I knew like I had a time limit on how long I could be there as an adult. But I was never really kicked out or really afraid of being kicked out of my father's house. I was more afraid of disrespecting my father and disrespecting his wife. My father didn't even go to any assembly to learn the word of Yah. But he always made sure that he pushed us there. You know why? Because his wife wanted to make sure that we were pushed in the right direction. So he submitted to the mission that his wife had to ensure that her children. So even though he never really taught me the word at all, she did. He showed me that it was important to always be at every assembly, at every meeting, to go door to door, to knock, to preach, to speak. He showed me what it was to be able to iron my stuff and have 3 creases in the back and all that way before I even knew that the military was going to be an option. He was showing me all those things. I knew how to tie a tie. Haven't tied a tie in a long time. Still can tie a tie without even thinking about, without even looking in the mirror, whatever. Right? Can tie different types of knots, all those things. Because even though he wasn't going, he still, as a father, was pushing. Right? He taught me what it was to be a father. What it was to be a husband. And therefore, by being a husband, he ultimately taught me what a father's heart was. He also taught me that at some point, son, I got to let you go. At some point, son, I got to trust you to make decisions. Yeah, taught respect, integrity. Yeah, with the fist. I missed that part. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it to you, son. You said your mom, taught you life. Your father taught you, or your dad taught you what it was to be a man. Yeah, there's certain things that he taught me, and so now I have a father's heart. I watched my father some people say, how do you get up, even when you're, for the most part, right? I'm human, so there's some days I have to take off here or there. But for the most part, how do you do this every day, all day, and stuff like that? And even when your body's giving out, how do you still give some stuff, even if you can't give all? I watched my father work 2.5 jobs for my whole life, my whole young life, and most of my adult life. It wasn't until about 5 years ago, I want to say, that he finally stopped working 2 jobs. Now he works one, and still would prefer that he have more hours or whatever. I've never, I've never seen my father in a position to where he doesn't work his behind off for his family, and then ultimately, even as his children have grown up and his wife has passed away, still works his behind off, still getting things together. At some point, knowing my father, he's going to have something left for his children. Um, Still is there if you need a phone call. Um, we'll make sure that he's lets us come by, even if he probably shouldn't, because he probably should be resting or doing some stuff. We'll go out of his way to make sure that he spends all types of money every once in a while, because we only get to see him every once in a while. So he's still blessing us, even though it should be the other way around. But he still won't allow, because he's a king. He won't allow, his subject, his son, to outgive his father. Um, Certain things I tell you guys is because I watched him. I watched his heart. I watched his passion. Now he'll be honest with you. He's passionate about the dollar. At one point I would say he loved the dollar way too much. But he's still passionate about making. But now it's become a thing of he's passionate about making sure that we're taken care of ultimately. Um, and so whatever it took, I know he's passionate about his marriage, because my mother's been gone. I told you guys this Mother's Day is 20 years officially, and this past Mother's Day, she it was 20 years officially of this, of years being without her on Mother's Day, and he still never has gone out on a date with any other woman. Still never had sex with another woman. Still has her ashes in the same place. Um, Still tells great stories about her from time to time. I check on him every Mother's Day and send him a text. I send some text on Mother and Father's Day, not because I'm trying to say Happy Mother's Day to him, because it's a rough day for him. He still has his wife. His wife is still gone. You know, um, so I saw Father's heart, and I see it every day. Um, I hope I'm this peaceful all the time. You said your dad didn't know how to love. Yeah, my father, even in that, and he wasn't perfect. Like, my father never said "I love you" growing up. He says it all the time now. But when I was stationed in Hawaii, so I'm probably 20, 21-ish at the time when I went over there, and really even before then, but especially when I got to Hawaii, I made it a point that I was going to say every day. I was going to say to my father, "I love you." End of every conversation, whatever. "I love you. I love you. I love you." And he wouldn't say it back, but eventually he kind of sort of said it. And then, like, ever since I've been back, basically, in the States, um, we always say it to each other. So, there's, even in that, sometimes you have, once again, I said it all the time, a father's ultimate goal is to protect and to preserve. And sometimes you have to teach him how to protect certain things that he might not think are fatherly. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have the ability to do it. And it doesn't mean that, if you give him enough chance, it doesn't mean that he won't do those things that you believe he should do, right? It just might take time, it might take patience, it might take love. Here's another thing that I learned about my father. My father, I would say my father, like many of our parents did, we were abused a lot by our parents. We got whippings with, I'm not talking about just me specifically, but just in general, right? Like, I've heard stories about, actually, some of the stuff happened to me, some of it hasn't, right? But we as a people, we beat people by braiding up switches, using switches. You better not be a switch that breaks type thing. Using cords, using pans, using belts in very interesting ways. All types of stuff. That we've used, going too long, etc. But my father never, he never hit me when I didn't deserve it, right? Like, he never just spanked me just because. Some fathers are just abusive, period. My father never, abused me just because, like, it was, the color was blue type thing. Like, some fathers be out there, some husbands be out there abusive. My father was never abusive in that manner to me. He never put his hands on my mother at all. But he was never abusive to me My sister, that was daddy's little girl, so he didn't really do much with her. But he was never really abusive to me, um, as far as that. But he might have gone, not might, he went overboard a few times. Um, and I used to be like, why, why when he does it, why does he go overboard? And I'd be mad, and I'd go to my mom, and you know, um, she told me one time, and if it stuck with me, I got it as a young child. She was like, look, I know you think that this is bad, and look, I agree, this and that. And she actually had got on him a few times, and actually had told other men, what was going on, like a couple times, like it was actually pretty bad. But she made a point to tell me once. She said, your father has your father's father did da 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 to him. And when I got a little older, I would hear stories of him talking to his brothers and sisters about things that his father did to him. So my grandfather, and my grandfather, all I knew about my grandfather, he was old, he had diabetes, he ended up looking pretty weak and stuff at the end of his life. I thought he was just a nice old man. Nope, he was formerly in the United States Army. Did a little bit of did a touch of Vietnam, and did the Korean War. Had all types of wild stuff that was going on with him. And so compared to my grandfather, my father felt he was a saint. But then I came to find out that my great grandfather was way worse than my grandfather, was to his father, or to my father, who was way better to me than he had coming to him from his father, right? So you start seeing how there's generational curse and how some of this stuff goes, and you can become forgiving even of that. Because even if he had a father's heart and he was bad in certain areas, who is perfect in all areas? None except the Most High, none except Yahweh, none except Yahshua, none except Ravak HaKodash. So it becomes easier to forgive your father when you realize that he's a human being. And it becomes easier to show love and to realize that he still has a father's heart, even if he's still has to be salvaged. That's what salvation is. It's a salvaging process. And even if he has to be salvaged every day, so that it be done unto him. Amen. And I'm thankful that I was raised by not only a father, but a father who had a father's heart. He didn't just have a father's position, but he had a father's heart. And every time that I teach and preach, I can only hope and pray that my life, in any way, shape, or form, that's put on display before Yah's people, can even hold a candle to his life. And if it does, then it's only my pleasure to do so, and only my responsibility to give all praise and honor to the Most High, who has shown me that my father has continued to now get into his word and be spiritual and to grow and to learn and to be different than what I ever thought he could be. I started eating healthy, for real, because my father was always around 350, sometimes 400, it looked like. And my father, now 230. And he said that he watched it. This is what he said he did. I knew about this. My wife is a herbalist and everything. I got to get ready to take my leave because my phone's about to die. But he basically just said he watched a National Geographic type thing. And he said, he was like, oh, it shows that animals only eat when they need to eat. They don't just eat all day. They just eat when they need to eat. He was like, I bet I could do that. Thank you, Minister Sonia. He was like, I bet I could do that. And he did it. And he said that's how he started losing his weight. And when I sat there and I was like, man, I'm armed with the herbalist all day and I ain't even thinking about this stuff. Maybe I should try something like that too. So I thank my father even for trying to be healthy in life, regardless of what things he couldn't do because he wasn't perfect. I thank him for being the example of the man that he is. I thank him for a father's heart. That being said, like I said, I got to get out of here. Got to take my leave. And we'll be back in front of you guys tomorrow. Minister Anais will be giving us a word for early riser Bible study session. And then right after that, we'll be back on at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, Hebrew characters, all that great stuff. Thank you for listening in. We appreciate you. We honor you. We honor the king and queen in each and every one of you, even if you're not living inside the kingdom or queendom yet. We appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. We give all honor once again to the fathers today. We give all honor again on Juneteenth for our story. We give all honor and praise for those born day people, Master Solomon and others who is your born day today. Minister Tamara. We also are thankful and grateful to the Most High. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. And she's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And she has lots of medicine. She also does one-on-one coaching and stuff like that for people. But remember, she has a business. We do everything via donation. She's a business. So please respect the business and what you need for the business to be able to flow. Doesn't mean she won't help you and things like that, but just please, be respectful of it. She says, hey, business requires da-da-da-da. She makes all this stuff from scratch, travels around the country, sometimes around the world, to be able to get the stuff in order for us. So please, ma'am, please, sir, be able to make sure that you help her out in that. We thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who gave birthday shout outs to Solomon, born day shout outs to Solomon. Some of you even sent some things to him. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And he's having a ball. I can't wait for him to go from the calm side to the side that's rough. He's going to have the time of his life while his mom and I are running around trying to make sure that he don't go too far. But we're thankful. We're grateful. We appreciate you. We praise y'all for you guys again. Thank you for those who support a father's heart, support a community that's trying to support a father's heart, and so much more. We love you guys. We appreciate you. We esteem you. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Yeah, I think that's all I have for today. So thank you. Appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of rest before we head on out. And thank you guys again. Pray for us as we're on the road. We should be here for Rising session tomorrow. And then we should be on the road. And hopefully by the evening time when Hebrew characters class pops up, I should be back in the stationary position. So pray for us. And when we travel tomorrow, we're praying for you all. I think Minister Kevin was on the road, so prayerfully they got where they needed to be. I think Minister Sonia, were you on the road? I can't remember if you're traveling or not. Hopefully you're being safe. To any of you that are on the road, the highways and byways, we look forward to you guys reaching wherever it is that you can be safe in. And thank you so much more. We appreciate you. We honor the King and Queen in each and every one of you. And thank you so much. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless, speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashdale, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. We'll let you go ahead and listen to the water a little bit, either until this recording goes, until I stop it, or the phone goes out. But you can go ahead and look at the scene for a little bit, and then we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.